I'm calling the Ocean View School District of Orange County Board of Trustees. The board took action in open session. I'm going to read out the agenda item and report out the statement. Temporary teacher release and non-reelection. In closed session, the board took action to release and non-reelect 26 temporary certificated employees pursuant to Education Code Section 449540, effective at the end of 2018-19 school year, and directed the superintendent or designee to send out appropriate legal notices. The vote was unanimous. That's the only action the board took in closed session. We're back in open session on agenda item number F, Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh my gosh. What a treat.
This way.
That was fantastic, and I want to commend the cymbal player because you know it doesn't work out right when the cymbal player misses. Good job. We're on to item G. Oh, we've moved the agenda. Number I, time certain. Item I1, 605. District Honor Band. Under the direction of music teachers Dennis Nicolosi and Kevin Field, the District Honor Band will perform The Ride of the Valkyries and Windermere.
Thank you. And that was Steve Clark from Marine View conducting Star Spangled Banner.
Thank you, Mr. Clark.
I would be remiss if I did not mention Giles Zambrano, temporary teacher at Springview. He fell ill today, so he's not with us today. So. Please silence your phone.
Well, that was fantastic. Wow. I want to draw the students' attention to the seminal movie that used the Flight of the Valkyries, Apocalypse Now. Have any of you ever seen it? If you haven't, you'll see the great scene. Thank you very much, Honor Band, and thank you, instructors. You're the best. We appreciate your work. And in recognition of that work, I'd like to ask Mr. Nicolosi to come up front.
Mr. Nicolosi was recently recognized by the Parenting OC as one of the top 25 teachers in Orange County schools. Museum last month, and President Briscoe and I were able to attend along with his principal, and it was so wonderful that so many of your staff members came because they too have such great respect for him. So we wanted to honor him with this certificate to acknowledge him from our Board of Trustees and the school district, that we're so proud of you, Mr. Nicolosi. Yay. Mr. Nicolosi, could you just tell us a little bit, speak into the microphone, tell us a little bit about the Honor Band and how that all works.
Our Honor Band is in its 21st year of existence. My second year teaching here, we started the Honor Band, and it's the 4 middle schools, advanced band students, audition to be in the band. We rehearse 3 Saturdays in January and February, about 3.5 hours each, and then put on a concert. Our concert was last, February 12th. We had a concert. We performed 2 other selections, and each of the directors had a chance to direct, so that's what makes it real fun. We get to direct a group of students that are really dedicated, so that's what makes it a lot of fun. And then where else are we going to perform? We have another performance at the the music festival, unfortunately. We have an art show. Downtown Huntington Beach showcases all of Ocean View School District's artwork, and then they also have some performing groups perform, and our Honor Band will perform all 4 selections that we performed at our concert, so keep practicing those pieces.
We'd like to have a moment to take a picture.
Oh,
okay.
Awesome.
Yeah. That's okay.
Single file, front row first, come on up.
Yeah.
Additions, oh yeah. This way. Walk this way. Turn to your right. Turn to your other right. Follow the leader.
Mr. Nicolosi, does the timpani player have to bring his instrument too?
That would be Mr. Field and I until in this instance. Next row, get one back here. We'll just keep on
You are the trumpet player.
and we'll shuffle the taller folks to the back and the not so taller up front.
Or just bang a little bit. Or just bang a little bit. And then just
You two should switch.
Yeah, there we go.
You need to come in. Yeah?
Yes.
You come in the front. Yeah.
Taller folks towards the back.
I was I got way high.
Sean, get in the back. Please. Where's Kira?
Take the shoes off. shirt.
Nice to see you. Thank you.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna have to have you guys sit down just a little more. Pretend like
Wide angle lens at 5 minutes.
I need a camera around if you can. So we can see your faces. Yeah, there you go. Okay, you guys, everyone looking over here. 1, 2, 3. We'll do another 1, 2, 3. All right, thank you.
That's not a picture.
That's why everyone's different. Some people it's small, so you
Thank you, Honor Band, for coming. We are going to continue with our meeting. We have quiet, please, with a gavel to have order. We're going to move on to item I2, 6:10 p.m., almost. Presentation, U.S. Census Bureau. Bao Nguyen, Partnership Specialist of the LA Regional Census Center, will make a brief presentation regarding the U.S. Census. And I want to start out, Mr. Nguyen, if you could keep it to around 7 minutes, I would appreciate it very much. Every 10 years, students and audience, as mandated by the United States Constitution, the U.S. Census Bureau undertakes a census of the U.S. population. The next census will take place beginning March 2020. In addition to determining federal representation, the census is also used to distribute federal funding to states, local governments, and schools. I'd like to introduce Mr. Bao Nguyen, former mayor of Garden Grove, and now working with the U.S. Census Bureau. He will make a brief presentation about the census. Thank you.
Thank you, and good evening, Honorable President John Driscoll, Honorable Trustees and Superintendent. I'm Bao Nguyen, Partnership Specialist with the U.S. Census Bureau. And you may have heard before, our motto is to count everyone once, only once, and in the right place. Why do we do a census? It's actually required by law in the U.S. Constitution, right up front before we talk about the branches of government. It's the basis of our democracy, and it's been conducted every 10 years since 1790. It's also about fair representation. It determines how many seats we get in Congress for our state. And after the 2010 census, California did not gain any seats in the House of Representatives. And just for comparison, Texas gained 4, New York and Ohio lost 2 each. It also means $675 billion of federal funding for vital services and programs awarded annually. And this is the number that's been determined by George Washington University. You have that in your packet as well, Honorable Trustees. It's also about redistricting. So it may shift our congressional boundaries, certainly our state legislative, assembly, and Senate seats. Some school districts that go by trustee areas, cities that go by district elections, water districts, etc. So, according to the George Washington University study, California receives about over $76 billion each year, and that comes out to be approximately $2,000 per person counted. So, underline counted. I want to assure everyone that the data is confidential. Myself and everyone who works for the Census Bureau has taken an oath for life to protect respondents' information, and there are strict penalties for that. the Census Bureau and the U.S. government cannot use the information against the people. And also, data can be shared with the census from other federal agencies. However, no personally identifiable information can be shared out from the Census Bureau, including to the U.S. president. Any data that comes out is only in statistical format. Next year, 2020, will be the first time ever that folks will be able to self-respond online and by telephone. They will be able to do so in 13 languages, which includes English. The paper form will be available in Spanish and English. So in addition to our partnership strategy, we're going to have mailers sent out to folks' homes. If you don't receive the pre-assigned ID, it's not required. Some folks may not receive a pre-assigned ID, which basically pre-populates the form field online, but we still want everyone to be counted. We also have many languages that are available in addition to those 12 non-English languages that will be available online and by phone. There's 59 non-English language glossary cards and ID cards available for those community nonprofit organizations that currently serve those linguistic communities that we'd like to partner with. And we're focusing on the hard-to-count population, and those include veterans, the homeless, children under 5. For whatever reason, some folks fail to include their children under 5. Perhaps they haven't enrolled in school yet, or they share a household, or they have parents where they share time, or they're still in the hospital as a newborn. So if the child is born on or before April 1st, 2020, which is Census Day, please include the child. Certainly senior citizens, people with disabilities, renters, the foreign-born immigrant population, farm workers and migrant workers, Native Hawaiians, Native Americans, and Pacific Islanders, refugees, those who have a traditional fear of government or have come from a government where they don't trust, and those who are limited English proficient. I want to draw your attention to the low response areas in our country, and if you go to census.gov/ROAM, R-O-A-M, you can look more closely at Huntington Beach and the demographics there. Just 2 census tracts east of this school district, or actually within this school district, the Distinguished Ocean View School District. It has a very low response score, which means that it has a very high low response. So approximately 30% of people did not respond to the census in 2010. So you think about the funding awarded annually, about $2,000 per person, that comes out to be millions and millions of dollars. We're encouraging folks to join or form a complete count committee. I met with the staff at the City of Huntington Beach earlier today. So hopefully President Briscoe and members of the board, you would appoint a designee to serve on that complete count committee so that everyone knows about the census and we can create readiness in our community so that everyone's counted. This is an example of what it would look like. The highest elected official or their designee would serve as chair, member of the public school system, and other influencers in the community, such as executive directors of nonprofits serving the hard-to-count population, leaders of universities and colleges, certainly leaders in the faith-based community are big influencers to encourage folks to participate. This is our key timeline here. We're currently in the education and awareness phase. If folks don't respond starting in March 2020, we'll have a reminder. We might come to a door or make a phone call, but hopefully everyone will respond online or by phone. And if you see a census worker down the street and you're like, oh, I forgot to respond, just log online and respond and don't get a notification to skip your house.
Yeah.
Certainly we want to thank everybody for partnering with the U.S. Census Bureau on this great American effort that happens every 10 years. In addition to the complete count committees, we hope that you will have someone serve on for the City of Huntington Beach. We're also partnering with community, nonprofit, and social service organizations. And many of you have those within your networks. Please refer me to them. I'm more than happy to meet with them and help bring them on board. Also, the faith-based community, those who serve the foreign-born and immigrant communities, bringing statistics into schools. If you go on to census.gov/schools, there is a lot of curricula available for all subjects, all grades, that you can integrate into the curricula within your classes. Also, we're partnering with media, including ethnic media and social media influencers. We're going to be having mobile response tables at different events. Please let us know your calendar of events, especially when it comes around time for the census in 2020. We'd love to be there with you to make sure that everyone's counted. Partnering with trusted voices such as yourselves, Honorable Board, as leaders in the community, and of course, anyone else who is a trusted voice and has a following, we'd like to partner with you and appreciate you for all your efforts. Here in 2019, we'll be opening up 2 field offices in Orange County, in addition to establishing those complete count committees. One will be in the city of Santa Ana, the other will be in the city of Fullerton. So we're hiring 1,620 folks. Actually, a lot more nationally, but in Orange County is 1,620 folks. And we'd like for folks to go online now to 2020census.gov/jobs. Those jobs are, the office job is about $50 an hour. The field jobs are about $20 an hour. So we'd like to get people in the applicant pool now, because as you can imagine, it takes a while to onboard everybody. The basic qualifications for these jobs are to be a U.S. citizen, pass a background check, and we certainly have preference for U.S. veterans who have served our country. And there are some supervisory and management positions available as well. So once again, 2020census.gov/jobs. And the next step is to really generate readiness in the community for Ocean View School District, and to mobilize the community to form and join this complete count committees. And please invite me, your official U.S. Census Bureau staff, to liaise in the community and encourage folks to apply for those jobs. You can contact me here, and I look forward to working with all of you. Thank you very much, and have a great evening.
That was very nice, thank you, you're right on time, I appreciate that a lot, and so does Cindy. Any questions from the board? Yes, Trustee Clinton Carmen.
Good evening, Mr. Wynn. Thanks for coming and making this presentation to us this evening. I really appreciate it. President Briscoe and I attended sometime last year, I believe in Santa Ana, a sort of bigger gathering of elected officials and various individuals from different agencies around the county to learn about the census, the upcoming census, and what it's going to take to get it done. And there was a lot of discussion there about sort of hot spots in the county where there are low response rates. And one of those low response rate areas was right here in Huntington Beach, right here in the Ocean View School District in the Oakview community. And that greatly concerns me because that's one of the most highly dense populated areas in Orange County. In fact, it's been considered the most highly dense populated area with 10,000 people in a half of a square mile. Okay, and so what we've learned though through some of the kind of investigations, Trustee Briscoe and I have learned this, is that we have a lot of individuals living with other family members. So let's say 2 and 3 families doubled or tripled up. And of course, according to federal guidelines, that is something that would categorize you as being homeless. So that's the McKinney-Vento Act, in fact, states that if you're living doubled and tripled up, you are considered, the second family or the third family is considered homeless. So what are your plans to be able to get into the community, to be able to count everybody, to make sure that their voices get heard in the census, because they are living in our community and they're valuable, important residents, and their children go to our schools. And so what's your plan to handle that, and do you need our help? How can we help you to get those individuals counted?
Well, first and foremost, thank you, Trustee Clinton Tarvin, for the invitation to be here. We're partnering with folks like yourselves, educational leaders. Teachers are highly trusted voices in the community, And as you know, with digital divide and with those who are limited English proficient, oftentimes it's the children that will be helping their parents complete the census form online. And even those who didn't grow up with that kind of technology, they may be helping their parents navigate to complete those forms online. Those folks, when they're counted, that does affect your funding for McKinney-Vento for your school district. So it's really key that we partner with the board and also let teachers know about the census so that the kids know about the census, and that we can alleviate some of the things that we may be hearing in the news or whatnot, and assuring the public and everyone that the census is safe, is a benefit for the community, and it is important for everyone to participate. So I also want to make it very clear that those who work in the city of Huntington Beach, who have helped the Census Bureau, those folks have also taken the oath for life to protect respondents' information. And that information cannot be shared with code enforcement or with the police or any other agency. So the census information is highly protected, and I want to alleviate anyone's fear about that. Those laws are within the U.S. Code, Title 13, and there has never been a violation of those laws since they have been enacted. So partnering with the members, certainly, and those who service those communities directly. I will be reaching out to the City of Huntington Beach's Oakview Community Resource Center to meet with them and to discuss our strategies and develop those strategies together as well. Thank you very much for your question.
Any other questions?
I have a question.
Would you raise your hand, please? Would you raise your hand or stand up? I'm not going to recognize it otherwise. Thank you.
I'm sorry, can you state that again?
Raise your hand fully up or stand up as is your desire. Thank you, Trustee Westwell. You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have a question for the speaker. When you do the counts, do you count illegal aliens as part of the regular population? Are they all included in one big pile, or are they segregated?
The United States Constitution requires that we count everyone.
So it's just one big group that all includes them?
We count everyone.
Great. And are these illegal aliens used on the redistricting for congressional and Senate districts? Are they included in those counts when they determine how those districts are redistricted?
Depending on the state laws, I believe that it depends on the state laws. But for the congressional reapportionment, it is determined by population according to the U.S. Constitution.
Okay, great. And the last question, you include all those people, but you don't actually allow illegal aliens to work for your agency, is that correct?
I already went through the basic qualifications.
Thank you.
It's in the PowerPoint.
No further questions. Thank you.
Any other questions? I do. How do you count car living, homeless, illegal garage conversion, people living in shelters like the American Home, the teen youth, the teen youth shelter that Huntington Beach City has? How do you count couch surfers? And there's many dozens at each of the high schools. How do you count the doubled up and tripled up housing? And how do you count the bridge abutment residents?
So we are, within our partnership strategy, we are working with those who currently have those populations within their sphere of influence to make sure that everyone gets counted. And because folks can self-respond, we are encouraging everyone to self-respond. Certainly with the education that's out there, that the census is really important. Not only does it determine power in the U.S. House of Representatives for our state, it also determines federal funding. And so with some of those populations, for example, they may fall under the umbrella of the homeless community. And we are working closely with cities to identify where those areas are so that our enumerators can make sure that we are out there to count everyone if they do not self-respond.
Because the U.S. Constitution protects every body regardless of their status. All people living in the United States have the right to a trial jury by their peers, have a right to life, liberty, and property. If you step foot and you are in the United States, you have a right to all those things. So any other matters have no bearing on that enumeration. On the another question I have is on the full census form, the 20 pages that ask you how many toilets you have in your house, how many TVs, how many tennis balls, You didn't talk about that, did you?
You may be referring to the American Community Survey, which is the more in-depth survey that many academics and researchers and other nonprofits and organizations use. The decennial census, which happens every 10 years, and the next one is next year in 2020, that's a head count of America's population.
Are they both concurrent, or is one separate from the other?
It depends on the area, the geographic area.
That concludes my questions, and I'll be delighted to help that we make sure we count every body that's in the United States at that moment. Oh, do we count visitors in hotels?
If they're in the United States on a particular visa, then they need to be counted.
So undocumented folks get counted, but if they're a visitor, they have to have a visa to be counted?
Well, if they're only here for a certain amount of time, certainly they would not respond. But if they're on, for example, a special academic visa at a university, then they need to be counted.
Thank you. Any other questions? Trustee Clayton-Carbon?
Mr. Nguyen, I think I heard you mention earlier that you needed a representative from our Board of Trustees to be on the team. I can't remember
The
what
complete count committee?
the complete count committee. So what kind of, what do you need to do to get a name, or what does that entail?
Well, if your board would kindly give direction to Dr. Hanson, perhaps she can take care of that so that we can work closely with the City of Huntington Beach. And really, the Complete Count Committee is looking at the existing channels of communication and events and newsletters and emails and social media posts, and really piggybacking on that so that everyone knows about the census and that is coming, so that folks can feel ready and folks can also receive the proper information and feel safe to respond to this very important event that happens every 10 years in our country.
So, is there any opposition on the board to Dr. Hanson providing input from our district to the count, given the nature of the Oakview community? You asked us to have a representative on your complete count in some fashion. Were you looking for a trustee?
Well, generally, what school districts have done is they usually appoint their PIO, the Public Information Officer, or someone who works closely with a lot of nonprofits, Boys and Girls Club, maybe someone who liaises with the Oakview Community Family Resource Center there. So I'll leave that up to your direction.
So we could appoint a night. Superintendent Hanson will take a look at that. We have a PIO, we have a Christine Hickman, who is our principal for my school. Anyway, those are all options, and that would be good. The only last comment I would have is that the prevalence of technology, computers, anything in the home in the extraordinary community of Oakview is very small, no more than 30-35% in my opinion. And just because you have a cell phone doesn't mean you have internet access at $20 a month or something. So, what you need to have enumerators to go knock on doors and people can speak. Are you going to do that?
Yes, certainly. We're hiring the 1,600 folks in Orange County, and a lot of those folks will speak other languages in addition to English, so that we can count those in the community.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I also would like to, President Briscoe, any member of the Board of Trustees here is certainly welcome to join the Complete Count Committee, or work with me directly as well to get the word out. Because I know that oftentimes, as elected officials, you may have very large followings on social media yourself.
Any other questions, comments? Thank you very much. Appreciate your presentation tonight.
Thank you, President Briscoe, and honorable members of the board.
We're now moving to item J, public comments. At this, you're right, we move things around. G, introductions. Superintendent Hanson.
None at this time.
And H, minutes. H1, regular board meeting, Board of Trustees meeting, February 19, 2019. Do I have a motion to approve? Trustee Clayton-Carbon, a motion to second. Motion to second. I'll second it. It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed?
Westwell, no.
Approved, 4, and Westwell, nay. We'll move on to public comments. At this time, members of the public may address the Board of Trustees regarding a matter of public interest not appearing on the agenda but within the subject matter jurisdiction of the Governing Board for Education Code 351455.5 and Government Code 54954.3. No action may be taken on comments of off-agenda items unless specifically authorized by law. In order to address the Board of Trustees, a speaker may indicate his or her wish to speak or may submit a public comment card to the Board's recording secretary prior to the start of the open session. Speakers wishing to address the Board of Trustees after the first public comment section of the agenda will have the opportunity to do so during any other public comments with the Board of Trustees later in the meeting. If the speaker wishes to address the Board of Trustees on an item on the agenda, time will be provided at the commencement of that item. Comments shall be limited to 3 minutes per person. Per Board Bylaw 9323, the speaker will address the President from the podium when speaking to the Board of Trustees. Clerk Sellers, do we have speakers?
We do. We have 11. The first one is Libby Frolickman. It just says.
Please proceed.
Hi, my name is Libby Frolickman, and I'm a community member compelled to come and speak tonight because I'm appalled by the behavior of Trustee Norm Westwell and fully support this board's resolution to censure him. The bylaws of this board clearly state that members of this board are to behave with decorum and respect for one another, even when in disagreement. As trustees for an elementary school district, you are responsible for setting an example for our children as to how they behave with courtesy and respect. It is clear that Trustee Westwell has not taken that responsibility to heart. As demonstrated over the weekend with the viral video from a party in Newport Beach area, young people often do not have good judgment. Their brains are not fully developed, and they don't have the capacity to always make good decisions about their behavior. However, we expect our adult elected officials to have clear judgment and self-control and to always remember they are setting an example for students who are not yet capable of discerning if the adult in the room is actually the one that is out of line. I am here because I expect the resolution to censure Trustee Westwell will pass, and I am hopeful that he will take it seriously and modify his behavior. The outbursts, gestures, and comments cited in the resolution are unbecoming of an elected official and should not be tolerated. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to call it 3 at a time. If you could just line up against the wall by the podium. We have Demian Garcia Momroy, Kathy Martins, and Pamela Shutt.
Hello, President of the Board, John Briscoe. Nice to see you again. Fellow trustees, Superintendent Hanson. My name is Demian Garcia Monroy, and I am a special education advocate, coach, highly successful. I actually have a Lifetime Achievement Award for my alma mater, Golden West College, just down the street from you. I've attended several IPs here at the district. My daughter attended Gene Hardy, which is on one of your campuses for a time. I know several people from your community. I love this district. It's got an excellent name. Normally, I view this as a district with some great board members. Unfortunately, here on a different type of issue, sexual harassment, bullying, harassment, are the types of things that don't belong in our school. And unfortunately, there's too much of these things that do go on. And this is the place where we have to set the example. And I have said this at many districts before. I attend a lot of school board meetings, mostly Garden Grove. And I'm always telling them how it's so important that transparency accountability, retaliation, all these huge issues, okay? Because I deal as an advocate, I deal with retaliation of parents. I deal with bullying by administrators against students. And it all starts up here with you, the board, okay? Because what you do as board members will show up with the administrators. They see what they can get away with. The administrators do it. And then from there, it goes to the teachers. This is the climate that we create. And you, as the board members, are the ones that sets the tone. So, are we going to censure? Are we going to set an example of what we're supposed to be doing? Or should you just rewrite your policies? Don't worry about the California Ed Code. I mean, you know, we already have over 10,000 cases in California of sexual harassment with our students. 1 in 3 children are bullied each year in California. Another survey says 90% of all elementary school students have been bullied. So it's a huge problem. Sexual harassment, bullying in our schools. What are we doing? What are we doing? If we can't even nip it in the butt right here in the face of the public, in the face of who we entrust. If you look at what does the trustee mean? Okay, it means that we, the community, should be able to trust you, and we should be able to trust that you will act accordingly. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Kathy Martins. I'm here as a resident in the Ocean View School District. I previously substitute taught for the district and really love the district. I want to talk about a couple of things. First, I want to talk about the behaviors that are the subject of the censure of Mr. Westwell this evening. That's number one. And secondly, I want to talk about what is the focus on this board. Why are we all here? This is a rhetorical question, but I would just like to ask, think back to when you first got on this board. What was the reason? Was it to run for higher office? Or what was it? I hope the first thing that comes to your mind is the children. I really wish there were pictures of the students all around these walls, not only in this public setting, but in the private setting. What you're doing is so important, and it should reflect only on how you can make the students' experiences and education better in this district. I watched the last board meeting, and I have to say some of the behaviors that I heard about that happened in closed session, and then when it was brought up in open session, Mr. Westwell jumping up and yelling. I can just say, in private sector, Mr. Westwell, you would be fired for what you've done. And you have a blog against a fellow board member. You work with these people. This is inappropriate behavior. So ask yourself, why are you on this board? What are you trying to do? Because it's not for the benefit of the children in this district. Thank you.
Good evening, President Briscoe, trustees, Superintendent Hanson, and Cabinet. My name is Pamela Shrub. I teach 4th grade at Harborview, and I am here tonight representing 450 elementary and middle school teachers in Ocean View School District. Tonight, I'd like to speak in support of the resolution to censor Trustee Norm Westwell. During my 23 years of teaching, it's been one of my priorities to teach my students respect, regard of others' feelings, have common civilized behavior in and out of the classroom. I would expect that of the adults that I encounter with, and especially of our elected officials. I'm here to ask the board that they support the resolution to censor Trustee Westwell. I have heard Trustee Westwell use inappropriate, uncivilized comments, and it's embarrassing. He has no remorse or concern that he's a role model within our community and representing a school district with children. The words he uses would not be acceptable in my classroom or at anywhere in my school site. It's not becoming of Trustee Westwell as an elected official to behave this way. Ocean View School residents, taxpayers, and parents who elected Trustee Westwell deserve an official who behaves appropriately, has common courtesy, and is respectful. On behalf of over 450 middle school and elementary school teachers in Ocean View School District, we strongly urge all trustees to support this resolution. We need to lead by example. Thank you.
Next three speakers are Shayna Lathis, Armando Romo Reyes, and Stephanie Green.
Good evening, President Briscoe, honorable trustees, Superintendent Hanson, cabinet members, and community members. My name is Shayna Lathis. My son attended OVSD schools, and I'm a teacher in another district. I did run for city council here in Huntington Beach in 2018 and plan to run again in 2020. I'm here tonight to address the issue regarding trustee Norm Westwell. You'll note that I did not refer to him as the honorable trustee, as I believe that he has failed to live up to that term. I've read the statements of facts regarding trustee Westwell's behaviors during closed sessions, and I'm sad to say that while I'm dismayed to read them, I'm not very surprised. I've been attending these board meetings for a couple of years now, and something has always stood out to me, trustee Westwell's behavior, and not in a good way. I can't even count how many times I've come home from these meetings, frustrated, venting to my husband that trustee Westwell seems so angry and disrespectful so often. It's bothered me because as a teacher and as a mother, I do expect my elected officials, especially those involved in the education of children, to behave with a certain decorum. President Briscoe, I think you'll agree with me that you and I don't often see eye to eye, but I have the utmost respect for you because you carry yourself in a way that is a good example for children. I've never been worried that you, Vice President Clayton Tarvin, Clerk Souders, nor Trustee Singer would ever set an example for the teachers and students in this district that could possibly be deemed as negative or not in the best interests of the children. The same cannot be said for Trustee Westwell, however. My goodness, even back when you were discussing adopting the board governance handbook, it blew my mind that Trustee Westwell argued so many points that these guidelines don't have any teeth. I couldn't understand why someone would argue over things like treating fellow board members with the most basic of courtesies. I've looked around this boardroom after Trustee Westwell has spoken and then flung the microphone away from himself, checking to see if there were children in the room. Trustee Westwell seems very angry most of the time that we are here. And now it's come to light that he's been treating his female colleagues and the superintendent in an incredibly disrespectful manner. Just a few days ago, I attended a rally to kick off Women's Rights Month, Women's History Month here in Huntington Beach. And I'm here tonight to tell you that enough is enough, Trustee Westwell. Your behavior is unbecoming of an elected official. Regardless of whether or not there's a handbook, you should know how to treat people with respect. You're supposed to be setting an example for the future of our district, the boys and girls who will grow up to be contributing members of our society. And you are setting an unacceptable example. Board members, I agree that Trustee Westwell should be censured. And let me tell you something else. If Trustee Westwell does not make a decision to change his behavior starting tonight, I may have to reconsider my run for city council. I may have to take your seat, Trustee Westwell, and give it back to the people.
If you don't, I will.
Good evening, President Briscoe, Board of Trustees, and ladies and gentlemen. My name is Armando Reyes. I'm a member of your community and concerned parent of school-aged children. When I first heard and read about Mr. Westwell's behaviors and actions, I was appalled and disgusted. The type of reprehensible behaviors described have no place in our society. We as parents, educators, and community should be teaching our children nothing but the highest morals and ethics. My concern is Mr. Westwell is setting a horrible example. I've never spoken before a school board, or I've never spoken in public for that matter. But in light of recent events, I felt compelled to have my opinion heard because I refuse to believe that I am the only one that feels this way. I simply would like to state that we deserve better. Our community and school board deserve better than what Mr. Westwell has brought to the table. And most importantly, our beautiful children deserve a better example. Thank you very much, President Briscoe.
Good evening, I'm Stephanie Green. I'm going to skip the pleasantries because I'm not feeling so pleasant tonight. I'm here because I wanted to take this opportunity to make sure my voice was heard. I was at the meeting where Mrs. Clayton-Tarvin reported out what has now been confirmed as harassing behavior by Mr. Westwell. I was upset. I was really upset when I left here, when I left the meeting, and then I went home, talked to my husband about it. He's like, "Why are you so upset?" I said, "Because it's not okay. It's just not okay." I represent the OVSD for the City Parks Commission, and I stand up for the integrity of this school district to the city and to the rest of the community. Incidents like the one Mr. Westwell pulled make my job more difficult, and I am certain that it embarrasses every other employee in the district as well. Mr. Westwell, I don't believe censure goes far enough. Your immature actions make everyone in this room have to work harder to prove that OVSD is the amazing school district that it is. Everyone in this room has to make up for your lack of composure. That's being nice, composure. I would ask that you evaluate why you're here, why you're actually here. What actions are you taking to make sure that this school district is better for its staff and for its students? Ask yourself if you were causing more harm than good. Then ask yourself if it would be best if you stepped down. Ask yourself if you are actually a role model for the kids in the school district. I think you know the answer, and the answer would be no. How can you effectively serve as a school board member when you're not even an adult in the room? The actions that you took in that closed session are unacceptable. I'm sorry to have to be here tonight. I'm sorry that I have to say these things, but it is time for you to grow up and do your job or step down.
Next three speakers are Laura Lavin, Martin Lopez, and I'm not sure of the last name, but I think it's Victoria Vu.
Yes.
If you could just line up so that Ms. Lavin for you. Thank you.
Hello. I have a question.
Could you please speak into the microphone?
Yeah, sure.
And then could you say your name, please?
Yes, my name is Laura Lavin, and I would like to request an interpreter.
Superintendent Hanson, do we have an interpreter? Is there somebody in the community that can help interpret?
Spanish? Or do you have?
Yeah, they can, or me, whoever. I can help. If you want.
You can do it. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. Okay, once again, una vez más mi nombre es Laura Lavin y tengo un hijo en la escuela Ocean View en el grado 10º.
So my name is Laura Lavin, and I have a child in school Ocean View, and he's on 10th grade.
También represento a las mujeres de la comunidad de Oakview.
I'm also representing the women in the Oakview community.
Y estoy aquí porque quiero apoyar a la señora, a la maestra, señora y miembro de esta junta directiva, Gina Clayton-Tarvin.
And I'm here because I want to support teacher and member of this community, board member, Vice President Gina Clayton-Tarvin.
Quiero que sepan que yo sí creo en su palabra.
I want you to know that I trust her.
Estoy nerviosa.
She's a little nervous.
Creo que cuando ella dice que ha sido víctima de acoso sexual por el señor Norm Westwell.
I do believe her when she says that she's being sexually harassed by board member Norm Westwell.
También sé que el señor Westwell es padre, es esposo y miembro de esta comunidad.
I also know Mr. Westwell is a father, a husband, and a member of this community.
Por eso quiero que sepa que es momento de decirle basta a su comportamiento, porque ninguna mujer merece ser tratada como ha sido tratada la señora, la maestra Gina.
So I'm here to tell Mr. Westwell to stop his behavior, because it is time for him to stop and not continue treating a person like Ms. Gina Clayton-Tarvin the way she's being treated by you.
Es momento de decirle basta a sus comentarios y a sus actos que están disfrazados de...
Boys should be boys.
Gracias a mujeres valientes como ella, estas cosas están parando, estas cosas están cambiando.
But thanks to courageous, brave women like her, this behavior has to stop.
3 more minutes. You can speak further. The 3 minutes is extended the translation. Tienen medio.
También quiero que no se desvíe la atención con señalar las ideas o el comportamiento social que ella tenga. No desviemos la atención porque es importante que se vea que está faltando al respeto.
So it is important that we don't deviate the attention from the issues that she is addressing, because we have to continue to be focused on his behavior because he's being disrespectful to her.
Porque el verano pasado yo fui a... 2 de mis compañeros hicieron comentarios con contenido sexual.
Last summer, 2 of my friends or co-workers made comments with sexual content.
Y no había ninguna razón por la que yo tenía que estar en una situación así.
And there was no reason for me to stay on that sort of situation.
Y gracias a que otra compañera y yo lo reportamos, las 2 personas que estaban haciendo sus comentarios fueron removidos en 2 días.
So, and thanks to a friend or co-worker that reported what happened with me, those 2 folks were removed within 2 days from their position.
Quiero preguntar a la mesa directiva qué se va a hacer o qué se está haciendo para resolver este problema.
So I'm asking her tonight, asking this board, that what are you guys doing to resolve this issue?
Estoy aquí para apoyar a la maestra Gina, perdón, este es su Clayton Curry.
So I'm here tonight to support teacher Gina Clayton Tarr. Thank you.
No, you've already used up your time. No, I'm just
Now I'm done. Good evening, President Briscoe and board members. My name is Martin Lopez, and I'm an organizer with Unite Here Local 11, which is a union that represents about 30,000 hotel and food service workers within LA and Orange County. So the reason I'm here tonight is because to express my support also for teacher, friend, and board member, Vice President Gina Clayton Tarvin, and as well as to highly recommend and request and ask you and beg you that this resolution be voted upon and be approved tonight to censor the behavior from Mr. Westwell, and that this type of behavior or any kind of behavior similar should not be tolerated whatsoever. So again, I'm here just to express my support and to thank you all for your service to the community. And folks like Mr. Westwell should not be serving the public, should not be an example to our communities or the children. So that's basically why I'm here tonight, and I want to thank you for your attention.
Good evening, Board of Trustees and everyone here. My name is Victoria Vu. I am an active member of this community and a PTO member, and my child goes to school. So by hearing all this incidents recently regarding about Board of Trustees member Norm Westbrook, well, I'm very disgusted and very upset with how you are teaching our kids in school. I am not, I'm very offended as an individual, as female, and our community, we learn in our school, Golden View and Westmont, we learn to be respectful, responsible, and a safe community. And I don't feel safe you being on board like this. So I really hope you either change your attitude or how you feel towards other people, including our female board members on our team. And you need to treat them with respect, because, or either that or step down, because I don't feel safe with you being on the board. I'm sorry, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Our final speaker is Carrie Kropke.
Honorable President Briscoe, honorable trustees, and honorable executive cabinet. My name is Carrie Kropke, and I am a trustee from Bray-Olin District. I was shocked several weeks ago when I saw a video regarding the sexual harassment of trustee Clayton Tarvin by trustee Westwell. Issues of sexual harassment and gender pay gap are of critical interest to me. As an elected official, we take our oath seriously to uphold and advocate for the rights of our students, families, and communities. That trustee Westwell felt it was appropriate to sexually harass and make unwanted sexual gestures is dishonorable and deplorable. How can this man sit on the dais and represent our children and young ladies? I am asking you to censure this trustee's behavior and communicate to our Orange County education community at large that this will not be tolerated. Honorable Clayton Tarvin has been elected to the California School Board Association as a delegate to represent our educational interests in Sacramento. This is an honorable and prestigious position. In addition, she has been an environmental activist, taking on billion-dollar companies that are poisoning children in this community. This is the kind of woman that should not be disparaged, nor any woman, but this is the kind of trustee who should be admired and celebrated. This is the kind of trustee that we need on all our dioceses around the greater Orange County. And I am so sorry, Dr. Hansen, to show up and find out that indeed, as with many harassers, there's a pattern to this. I am sorry. Finally, any person, and I couldn't believe I heard this tonight. I actually had to ask 3 people by me. I go, did I actually just hear this? Any person who calls people illegal aliens is not befit to sit in that seat, sir. Shame on you. Not only do you harass women, you disparage our minority community. You are hateful and unfit for school board position. Thank you.
We have 2 more, but they are for the second public comments.
Thank you. And that concludes our public comments. I'm going to move on to item K, communications. K1, written communications to the board.
Yes, you have them on your dais and they're available for the public. We have 2 that came in today. One from Eugene Fields regarding the censure of trustee Westwell, and another one from Dennis Brees regarding the censure of trustee Westwell.
Thank you. Item K2, board committee reports.
No reports this evening.
Item K3, trustees communications, starting with trustee Westwell.
Well, President Briscoe, I went first last time. Are we able to switch this up at all instead of always having me go first?
Could be. Do you have something to say?
I'll go ahead and speak now, but I think it's highly unfair that you always call on me first, Trustee Briscoe. So in the future, I would expect that we shake this up a little bit. Thank you. Frivolous litigation and avoidance compels me to state that the following comments are all my opinions. Lies, lies, and more lies. Where is the investigation regarding the false allegations being alleged in the censure? Where is the due process? Where is the incremental discipline? Where is the documentation? Where is the evidence? Trustee Briscoe has ruled against me previously and then later admitted publicly that he had no idea what the rule was at the time of the ruling. This board has become a circus. The bringing of this censure is the first step in Trustee Tarvin's attempt to silence my speech. Trustee Tarvin has established a pattern of doing this to people when they take a position contrary to hers. She has repeatedly demonstrated her eagerness to take the rules and laws designed to protect people as a shield, and she inappropriately uses them as offensive weapons against those who dare to disagree with her. In her recent history, there was Raymond Herrera, who Trustee Tarvin attempted to obtain a restraining order against because he dared to speak against her in public comments. Next was Chuck Johnson, who she also sought a restraining order and also filed a civil suit action. His crime? A website that documented Trustee Tarvin's positions and actions. It's her record. It is well known that Trustee Tarvin and I are on the opposite sides of many issues. She has accused me of creating and maintaining a website called crookedgino.com, which also documents her positions and actions as her record. This is step one in her attempt to control my speech. Next will likely be some sort of lawsuit, maybe a sexual harassment one. Make no mistake, she's laying the groundwork. It's a setup. The Ocean View School District Board Policy 9005-3 states that each individual board member shall recognize and respect differences in perspective and style. Trustee Tarvin has absolutely no respect for the differences I bring to this board, as evidenced by the bringing of this censure. Staff, parents, and yes, even board members are silenced. This board, and by extension of this district, has become a force for exclusion, segregation, and the silence of dissidents. They're using bully tactics. Is this really what we want to be known for? I'd ask my trustees to think for themselves instead of being told what to do. I'd like to call for an independent third-party investigation into these allegations, and I also beg the grand jury to come investigate this board. Thank you.
Trustee Singer.
Last Monday, I had the opportunity to attend the first LCAP leadership meeting where I was able to participate with principals, teachers, parents, and community members in coming together and figure out what we need to do to ensure that we are setting high standards for our students and ensuring that we are meeting those needs. And what we can do as communities, as trustees, to bring to the table to ensure that we do set the tone. Dr. Hofer led the meeting, and it was a very productive meeting, and I look forward to the following meetings. I think as a trustee, we are here to ensure that we are providing rigorous programs for our kids, and what better way of doing this but by participating. So I'm excited to be part of that committee. Last Wednesday, I also had the opportunity to volunteer to build a playground at the Oakview community in partnership with Kaboon and Yokohama Tires and the Children's Bureau. It was a great event. In less than 5 hours, we actually built a playground, you guys. It was exciting. Checked in at 8:30 in the morning. I didn't follow the rules and put sunscreen on, and I was sunburned at the end, but it was totally worth it. The excitement of the kids' faces, it was amazing. I was very proud to have our entire cabinet present and build those playgrounds, so thank you for doing that. That was a great event. I'm excited to see and go back now to visiting the playground now that it's up and running. This coming Friday and Saturday, I will begin my governance classes. I'm excited to gain deeper understanding of my role as a governance and a trustee. Education obviously is critical, and I want to make sure that I have the right tools to make sure that I am governing correctly and that I am doing it in a great and positive way. So I'm excited to be part of this, and I'm thankful that all of you are here, and I'm excited to hear your feedback on it, and I will take it in consideration.
Trustee Souders.
Yes, thank you. I'm a little under the weather, so I'm going to keep it short as I can, and for other reasons as well. I will say thank you all for coming and attending Governance in Action. It's always welcome to see a full crowd out there. I had the opportunity of attending the LCAP meeting as well. It's an eye-opener. I look forward to the next one where we had some lively discussions at our table and our breakout sessions, and a lot of good ideas were exchanged. And you know, what's nice about LCAP is you get ideas from so many different people in so many different areas of the community. We had community members there. We had members of the certificated staff, members of the administrative staff. We had just people from all over, and parents, and it was phenomenal just to see us all get together and discuss the direction that we want our district to go in, and celebrate also the milestones that we've reached in our district. I also had the opportunity on Friday, and if you did not get this opportunity, then I'm sorry because you missed out on a really good performance. I went to Thoroughly Modern Millie at Marineview, which was just exceptional, and an exceptional musical, really well done. Dealt with some pretty mature issues, which I was kind of taken aback at first, but they did it in a really respectful and a really creative way, and I really liked. The presentation was just top notch. The lead, and kudos to the lead. The lead just gave. I don't remember her name, but just a phenomenal performance, unbelievable. Really, really just a great time to just sit there. A lot of times, kids' performances, you're not really sure what to expect, but it was just top notch. It was really well done. The lighting was good, the sound was good, the sets were outstanding. It just shows the level that we can reach to when we are working together on these projects. And I think they're giving. I'm going to be honest. I think they're going to give Mesa the money. They're really putting on a good show. And I feel a little bit of a mic throw down there and see what happens. But again, thank you for coming, and have a good evening.
Trustee Tarbett.
Thank you, President Briscoe. First, I'd like to say that we attended an OCDE hearing on the charter school, and we'll be attending again tomorrow morning to be speaking in opposition to the Sycamore Creek Charter School. I should add that the staff of the OCDE have requested or have acknowledged that the petition is insufficient and that the board should deny it, and I concur. Also, I spoke at this last weekend's HB Huddle's Women's History Month rally, and I was the last speaker, and I was pleased to be able to be there for the second year in a row to be able to celebrate Women's History Month kickoff. Also, I will be attending Lobbying Day at CSBA with my colleague, Trustee Singer. We're going to be going to Sacramento on the 12th to do lobbying on behalf of children in schools with our state senators and state assembly members. I look forward to meeting with Senator Tom Umberg and others. I'm also going to be attending the CFT, the California Federation of Teachers Union Convention. I am a union rep at my school site in Cerritos, and I will be attending the convention for the 23rd year as a union representative, and also as the vice president for 12 years. I have been asked this year by the leadership of CFT to be a presenter at one of the breakout sessions on how teachers can run for elected office and give my experiences on how to do that and be successful and to get elected. Also, I attended the Oakview building of the park for the city of Huntington Beach that was funded by the Kaboom grant. That was a great accomplishment. Very happy for the Oakview community. And lastly, I'd like to say that there is an official complaint that was made by me, lodged and logged into Dr. Hanson and Trustee President Briscoe. My official complaint against Trustee Norm Westwell for his inappropriate sexual harassment and other disparaging behaviors. It will be investigated by a third party, and there will be a report. Thank you.
I'll summarize. First, I'd like to recognize Dr. Conroy for his continuing fine work in procuring trade terms discounts for our school district, our taxpayers, and our students. If you're interested in what a trade term discount is, please ask me after the meeting or email me. But good job, Dr. Conroy, thank you. Second, I attended the Thoroughly Modern Millie show, and it was rife. That's an SAT test word, rife. Rife with historical references that are edgy. They talked about light slave trade, which was a huge, big deal in the 1920s and the 19-teens. And they talked about a whole lot of different things. The performance was incredible. It was quality of individuals performing. They had 40, 50 students on the stage. They had 100 students pony up to try out to be in that show. And only 40 were selected to be in it. It's a huge, huge school for performing arts. So third, I went to the Oakview construction site with Trustee Singer, and we looked at the new gym being built there on time, budget, and then last I attended the Orange County School Board Association dinner. We presented a anti-bullying presentation, ironically, with everything we've heard tonight. I want everybody in the audience to know that California state law requires that each of our school site councils promulgate and make available and execute an anti-bullying program in each school site. And I'm proud to say Ocean View obeys and follows that law. That concludes my comments. I'm going to move on to K4, Superintendent's Communication.
Well, good evening. I have some fabulous news. Mesa View Middle School has been named our 2019 California Distinguished School. Schools across the state and only 162 middle and high schools throughout California. Partners, we had our second annual OVSD CSCA PAL Squared retreat, and we were so honored to have state officials from CSCA attend, along with a representative from the California Labor Management Initiative, Ed Horowitz, along with our very own Jim Choate and members of the maintenance and facilities crew, who talked about the efforts that are going on in their department to change the culture of how we work together using the book Gung Ho. So it's really wonderful that we are taking strides with our PAL, our Partnership with Administration and Labor Work, and thank you to President Jason Bozarth for his efforts in helping to plan that event, along with Human Resources Assistant Sue Felix Avila. We're moving in the right direction. And also, because of the good work that we're doing with our partnership work, we have been invited by the California Labor Management Initiative, convening next week, along with our union presidents and Mr. Avila and myself, will be on a guest panel. So it's very exciting to be recognized for our work. We got all kinds of events. I urge you to check out our website to see our calendar of events, but one of them I want to tell you about, we have an engineering and rocket night at Lakeview on March 13th. And actually, this week, we have the music festival, which is over at Marine View at 6:30 on Thursday evening. So, like I said, check out that OVSD website to see all of the fabulous activities that we have going on. We hope you can join us. Thank you.
We'll move on to item K5, PTA, PTO, PTSA, PTSO, President's Roundtable, and here she is.
Oh my God. Okay. Good evening, President Briscoe, Board of Trustees, Superintendent Hanson, Cabinet and Community. My name is Leslie Sheridan, and I'm here to report out on the President's Roundtable meeting that we held yesterday, the 4th. And I'd like to thank Dr. Conroy, Dr. Hoper, and Mr. Reiner for attending that meeting. We started off our meeting with a vigorous conversation about the Orange County Board of Education meetings that have been held in regards to the charter school, and that there is another meeting tomorrow, and I believe that the meeting starts at 10 o'clock. And the best thing that we came up with is that it's important for us to attend, be there early, put a card in, and make sure that your opinions are heard, right? We want to make sure that they know how we feel about the charter. So one of the other things that we worked on updating and getting our thoughts in are the fencing and modernization program project that's going on. As we work on a day-to-day basis to make sure that the kids are safe in regards to the dropping off and the picking up, and we have this fencing project that's going on, and there's like 6 or 7 schools that are going to be, it's going to be happening right away. We wanted to make sure that on that day-to-day basis, the standard operating procedures that have come up with, that they are become a part of that program, that they are not set in place and then the fencing changes everything. So I'm going to say that if there is a committee that is put together, that we have several people on the roundtable that are volunteering to be a part of that. Okay, so we'll just keep an ear out if there's a committee that's set up, that we have volunteers ready to go to be a part of that. And we're advised, as these move forward, to work with the principals at the location to make sure that as the fencing is discussed, that we're just a part of that, discussion. So as fundraisers, right? That's our job, to fundraise for the schools and the students. We're always looking for fundraising and what fun things that we can do, so fun snacks. And we were introduced to a new company, Rich's Ice Cream, and they are a clean product. They provide, their facility is peanut free, and they have all sorts of they recognize allergies. And so it was fun to have them come, provide samples, and discuss opportunities to fundraise with some really yummy ice cream. So I'm going to hold that up because we'll be seeing that at the schools soon. Right? And then lastly, we were introduced to a new vendor, Drama Kids International. And as we talk about all the wonderful things that are going on at the schools and the programs, we have a new after-school program vendor, and we look forward to seeing them on our Wednesday short days so that we can help feed into those great programs. And that's my report for our meeting this last Monday. Thank you very much.
Did you say they fed you free ice cream?
They did. I came in looking for the freezer. I guess it got taken away.
Thank you. I should have been there.
Thank you.
We'll move on to item K6, our Employee Associations Communications, CSEA and OVTA. Would you approach the podium, please, CSEA?
Good evening. My name is Jason Bozarth, and I am the chapter president for CSEA number 375. And I would like to thank everyone for giving me the chance to speak and represent the membership. It's a relatively short update, so I'll get right to it. I'm not going to lie, it's been a busy month. First off, I would like to thank and congratulate the administration, who works tirelessly, and the administrators also, to bring the second PAL Squared retreat to fruition. It was an excellent event, with speakers from several organizations, including CSEA, and even our own Director of Facilities, Jim Cho, showing off his not insignificant public speaking chops. We talked a great deal about PAL, Gung-Ho, and other collaborative movements that are leading the district towards a much better place, if you ask me. Tomorrow is the County Board of Education meeting, during which, unfortunately, I have no illusions about that pack of devoted charter school crusaders listening to anything we or the community has to say, but we will speak it loudly, nevertheless. Our next chapter meeting is on the 12th at either Don Ramon's or El Torito. Just as a side note, the crab enchiladas at Don Ramon's are quite excellent. On the 21st of this month, myself and a number of classified staff will be attending a bargaining academy. We do this, hopefully, after we do this, we will be able to match wits with the wily Felix Avila and his icy stare of doom. And as for the long term, I hope to continue and advance the work of PAL by forming a classified PAL council consisting of all those who attended the retreat, in order that we can capitalize on what we've accomplished and learned and build a network that can better serve the students and create a collaborative environment in which we all can achieve our potential. In a mirror to the previous speaker, when talking about the census, I'm going to be conducting a census of our chapter, as I have been receiving reports of the discrepancies. And considering the recent court decisions, it is understandable that frankly our records need to be reviewed, and every member should be counted and questions resolved. That's it for now. I hope everyone has a pleasant evening.
Thank you. We have OVTA.
Good evening, trustees and cabinet. I am the Ocean View Teachers Association President, Margaret Friedman, and I'm here representing over 400 teachers, and we are really honored to be able to present at the Labor Management Initiative workshop next Monday to present what we are doing in the Ocean View School District with Partnership Administration and Labor. I really want to emphasize that this partnership has been ongoing, and it started 4 years ago, and it's been a strong work in progress. And one of the biggest things about our partnership is that we have guiding principles. And these guiding principles guide us on how we act and set goals and work with each other to solve difficult problems. when it comes to educating our students and running a school district. And so I'm proud that our school district is embracing the partnership with administration and labor. And the teachers appreciate this too. And I want to thank the school board for their time and services that you put in as elected officials to provide leadership and to guide the education of the students in this community. As OBTA president and also representing the teachers in the elementary schools and our middle schools, we support the censor that states that Trustee Norm Westwell shall treat fellow board members and the public with dignity and respect at all times. I attend almost every school board meeting, and I was present at the May 23rd board meeting where Norm requested Gina Clayton-Tarbin to stop talking through name calling. It was shocking, and I've been to many, I go to every single school board meetings, and I get surprised by this behavior because as a teacher, we work in classrooms filled with, as teachers, we work in classrooms filled with students, and it is expected that we all treat each other with respect, dignity, and kindness while making good decisions, showing respect, and problem solving. This is what we do each and every day, and this is what the Ocean View community deserves. Thank you.
We'll go to item L, reports. Superintendent Hanson? No?
We have no reports.
Okay, thank you. We are on item number M, the consent calendar. I need a motion to approve.
I'll move. I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? It passes 5-0 with nobody in opposition. We'll move on to item number N, old business. There is none. Item number O, new business. Board of Trustees resolution number 15:1819 resolution of the governing board of the Ocean View School District of Orange County regarding censure of trustee Norm Westwell. It's on the agenda for action, and I want to remind you, in public comments, I mentioned that you can stand up to speak. If there's anybody that'd like to speak, please line up over here. Trustee Westwell.
I know, but we have two public speakers.
Oh, we have two public speakers first. Thank you.
We have Jason Bozarth and James Fall.
Point of information.
Yes, Trustee Westwell, you did stand up. Thank you.
I would like to know who the initiating board member is for this censure.
What did you say?
I would like to know who the initiating board member is for
I'm
the
the
censure
initiating
before
board.
us.
I'm the initiating board member, and I presented to the last meeting.
I'd like to make a motion to object to consideration of this item.
It's been moved to object. Is there any second? Thank you. Who's the other speaker, Trustee Sauter?
Point of order, Mr. President. It doesn't require a second. It does require a vote. Mr. President?
Parliamentarian, would you help me understand that?
Page 266.
Oh, thank you.
Last 267.
Objection to consideration of question. The purpose of the objection to the consideration of a question is to enable the Assembly to avoid a particularly main motion altogether when it believes it would be strongly undesirable for the motion even to come before the Assembly. That one, right? Or we go to the next page, 68. So, let's see, we're on which one? 10. Oh, does not require a second, is not debatable, is not amendable. A 2/3 vote against consideration is required to suspend the objection.
Thank you, Clerk Souders. I will call for a vote. All those in favor of Trustee Westwell's motion, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay.
One moment, point of clarification. Is his he's making an objection to the consideration of the question. Let me just read this again so that you understand what it says. A 2/3 vote against consideration is required to sustain the objection.
So that would be 2/3 would have to say aye.
Against consideration of his objection, is that how I'm understanding it? Can I get a second opinion on that one? Is it right down here, mid-page? Just want to make sure we word it correctly.
So is there a motion to object to the agenda item? There's no debate, there's no second. Call for a vote.
No, we've done it properly.
Okay.
The vote is 4-1. It requires a 2/3 to sustain the objection. The motion fails.
Thank you.
So, and yes, Trustee Westwell?
Thank you,
What-
Mr.
what
President.
did you rise for?
I rise to make a motion.
Okay.
Do I have the President, Mr. President, do I have the floor?
You have the floor, Trustee Westwell.
Thank you, Mr. President. I make a motion to lay this item on the table.
There's been a motion made to lay this item on the table. Generally, that means to discuss it at a later time. Do I need a second for that parliamentarian?
I believe you do.
Do I hear a second? There's no second. So if you would like to speak, Mr. Bozarth, and if anybody else would like to speak, you need to stand up behind, over against the wall, and this is the time to speak on this agenda item, if you want to speak on this agenda item. Yes.
My name is Jason Bozarth, and I have written many statements in my time here, but in all honesty, this one gave me no pleasure. Over the past 2 years of my time in office, I have noticed a shift in Trustee Westwell's behavior. Instead of serving the community and his children, he now serves an ideology. He serves the ideology of austerity, of privatization, and disenfranchisement. I cannot say what his thoughts may be, but based on his actions, he constantly pushes for walking back the many gains which have brought our district back from the brink of financial ruin. Now, this is not in and of itself a violation of Ed Code, but this has manifested in increasingly outrageous behavior, as well as constant obstruction and the unwillingness to make even the basic preparations for the meetings. Furthermore, growing hostility to his fellow board members has turned even simple legislative sessions into a baton death march of petty behavior and shameful squabbling for all the community to see. I have been trying to warn everyone over the past few years that the political winds are changing, as Gracie Vandermark and her ilk learned all too well. I do not mean to dismiss the frantic campaigning of the part of the teachers, but the community liked the direction we have been going in, and therefore was receptive to the teachers' message. Now, the reason I bring this up is that we are finding ourselves increasingly in an environment where the public demands effective representative governance from its elected officials. Obstinance and outrageous behavior, along with devotion to an ideology instead of the community, have never been the tools of effective governance, and the public, as well as the different organizations affected, such as our own, have had enough. No one would demand agreement from Trustee Westwell. It is his constitutional right to disagree with every single person here, but a level of decorum must be maintained if we are to conduct the business of the district in an efficient manner and in a timely manner, as the public rightly demands of us all. I would urge Trustee Westwell to think long and hard over his actions, because the community is changing, and tolerance of public officials who serve only their ideology or behave in a verbally abusive manner are finding themselves swept out of office like never before. And this change will only gain momentum. Know that I hold no personal animosity towards Trustee Westwell, and I want to hear his perspective. But this behavior has to stop, and it has to stop now. Thank you.
probably tell you, I went through less than a month ago open heart surgery, so I'm not fully up to par. But I had someone drive me here tonight just so I could speak. Yeah, from one of the things that bothers me, we had a union take over the board. It's now 4-1. Looks like they're going to try to make it 5-0. I'm disappointed in that. What I've done is, as you know, I listen to all the audios of these board meetings. I've also edited them, and I have them now sorted in terms of specific examples where this board is ganged up on norm. We talk about bullying. You know, it's the union hacks don't like to hear this. There's specific examples. I've edited it. I'm putting it out on a website where everybody can see the kind of treatment Norm's had since he was elected. I think there are other nuggets in the audios for this particular district which show it's not very well run. And I think for that reason, someone needs to push back. Norm, you're the only one on this board that represents those like me that are not in the union camp. The union has run this board into the ground, this district into the ground. We have former presidents of this board whose spouses are covered by contracts, yet votes for those contracts. Maybe illegal, it's highly unethical. I've seen a lot of things going on in this district that are leading to it not being well run, and I can understand why a lot of parents are leaving. If, as you know, my children both went to this district in the past. We were forced to pull them out, take them to private school. Our neighbors are doing the same thing. If you think it's funny, and I hear the packed crowd is laughing and chuckling, I would be prepared for what you're going to find, because I'm definitely going to cover a lot of the things that I found through listening to board meetings. It's going to be all put on the internet, not on Facebook. We demonstrated in the past you can publicly do things. I will announce the URL in future meetings, and hopefully people in the public will be able to see what's been going on in this board. I do not support censuring the norm. I think it's trumped up. I think there are people that have wanted to kick him off the board since he got elected. There's nobody to counteract the other 4 voices, which don't represent me and don't represent most of the people that I know.
Are there any other public comments to the agenda item, Trustee Sauer?
None is recorded by Blue Card.
Are you standing up to speak? If you are, please come up and speak. If you're standing, you need to come get in line behind the podium, otherwise I'll close the public. Thank you, Emily. Please approach the podium and state your name.
Okay. My name is Emily Anderson. I am here as a concerned parent. I wanted to just speak on some of the things that were mentioned earlier. As you know, many know, I do attend almost every single board meeting. I was here the day Chuck Johnson made what made me very uncomfortable, yelling, screaming threats to Miss Clayton Tarvin. I heard it with my own ears. Yes, I testified against him in court, stating that to that nature, as well as Mr. Westwell was in court testifying against his own board member, which I find an extreme unprofessionalism. And speaking of parents, you've heard them tonight. You've heard the parents say that they're sick and tired of the disrespect, the disgusting behavior, the deplorable actions. I have my children hiding in a back room. I want everyone to know that right now. My children are not out here right now, because I will not have them see someone speaking to specifically to women in the way that I've seen. Mr. Westwell, along with others, I too will say that you're rude, crass, disrespectful, particularly to women, and do nothing but argue and fight with everyone you're supposed to collaborate with. I want to throw that word out there, collaborate. You're working together for children. In fact,
it's become a constant thing, such as the testifying against your own board member. That is the epitome, in my opinion, of a total lack of any professional courtesy, as well as, in my opinion, a conflict of interest. Why are you standing with someone who doesn't have children in this district?
Yeah.
That's concerning to me. You don't follow the basic rules to raise your hand high. Hi, my 5-year-old knows what that means. Raise your hand high. Not with your elbow on the board like this, with the dais. High. I think we all know what that means. So now you're making a scene by standing up. It's just everything has to be a show, a scene of some nature. Is it so hard to be a pleasant, respectful, decent person? You claimed last meeting that you care about the children, and I can say, along with all these people, you don't care about my kid. You don't care about my child or any other one. Because if you did, you wouldn't be acting this way. My question is, why are you here? And if you don't stop and learn to just be a nice, respectful person, I promise you, if Miss Shayna Lathis over there doesn't run for your seat, I will. You can't say that you care while I have a friend who is a teacher, I'm not going to name names, over at Springview, and she told me that not once last year did you set foot on that school campus. Don't tell me you care when you don't even take care of the school that you're supposed to be representing. Woo!
My name is Victor Valladares. I've been being involved in the school district boards of trustees for the last 3 or 4 years. 3 years, give or take. Since 2015, I saw the transition from our previous board member that Norm Westwell successfully beat in a campaign, which is why we currently have him here. I noticed that he had a nickname, Firecracker, and I want to know the background behind that. As the meetings passed by, he kept on showing more and more of that Firecracker nickname and why he got it. No decorum. Very reactionary, and always voting against the best interests of the children. I hope you remember why you chose to run for the best interests of children. You are not setting an example. And it's not an opinion, you are not setting an example. There are children in this room, and honestly, like if they were to witness the type of behavior that happened in closed doors or closed chambers, in closed session, that would not be acceptable. And I just simply want to let y'all know that I hope and pray that y'all vote yes on the censure of Trustee Norm Westwell. Thank you.
Are there any other speakers? Seeing none, is there a speaker? Then I will close the public comment portion of this agenda item and go to board comments. Is there any discussion from members of the board? Dr. Hanson?
You need to make a motion.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
I need a motion second. Who's going to make the motion? I'll make the motion. Is there a second?
I will second.
Been moved and seconded. Thank you, Dr. Hanson. So is there any discussion from the board?
Yes, Mr. President.
Trustee Singer had her hand up first.
I just want to, the reason why I support this censure has to do with behavior. It has to do with decorum. It has to do with the way we conduct ourselves. It has nothing to do with me disagreeing with someone else's different opinion about something. I think that's what makes us a great board, if we can collaborate and have different opinions. And I think that I'm open to every single person that sits on this dais and listening to them. I want to collaborate. That is why we are here. But we are not here to treat each other disrespectfully and make these kind of statements. And the last meeting that we had, there were children present when this behavior happened. And because of that, that is why exclusively I'm supporting this. Because I do not need children to witness these kind of behaviors. It has nothing to do with a personal vendetta. It has nothing to do with friendships. It has to do with there is an expectation of all of us to behave kindly and politely. And when I sit here, whether I agree with someone or not, I need to treat them with respect and dignity. And that is why I'm in support of the censure.
Trustee Westwell, if you'd like to be recognized, please raise your hand or stand. Any other comments from the board? Trustee Clayton.
Point of order,
yes.
Mr. President. got my hand
Raise
raised,
your hand
Mr.
straight up
President,
or
and
stand
I'm
up.
asking to be recognized.
Raise your hand straight up.
Point of order, Mr. President.
Yeah.
I've got my hand raised. You asked me at the last meeting to raise it above my head. It is above my head.
I showed you how I want the hand raised. That's my rule.
Point of order.
You can stand up if you'd like.
Point of order.
So, yes, what's your point of order, Trustee Westphal?
I want to take the vote right now on this point of order. Is it well taken? I'd like to put this before the board. Board, is my point of order well taken? All in favor, say aye.
I don't understand your question.
All in favor, say aye.
Trustee Clayton Tarvin, you had your hand raised.
Point of order, Mr. President. The Robert's
thank
Rules of
you.
Orders allows me to, okay, I make a motion that President Briscoe has vacated the seat of the presidency. He's not responding to my points of order. And I'd like a parliamentary ruling from our parliamentarian.
I don't know what the motion is indicated, but I will make a ruling on.
Page 376, number 16, the chair must recognize anyone who wishes to speak.
Alright, so, before I hit that subject, there is something that does need to be, taken into consideration. When someone makes a point of order, the president, may rule whether that point of order is well taken or not well taken, and stating briefly his reasons, which should be recorded in the minutes. So if your point, you can either say your point of order is well taken, state your reasoning for why it's well taken, or not well taken, and then briefly state your reasoning as to why it would not be well taken. So for example, in this instance, you would say your point of order is not well taken because we've established that proper procedures for raising your hand, and you are to continue to not follow them, if that were the case.
Thank you. It's so nice to have a professional parliamentarian at my right hand. Your point of order is not well taken, and my ruling on hand raising remains. Trustee Clayton Tarvin.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Trustee Clayton Tarvin.
Thank you, Mr. President. First and foremost, I want to thank you for taking these issues very seriously. I think over the past several years that Trustee Westwell, or my colleague at the end of the dais, I should say, has been on this board. He has been obstructing and disrupting.
A point of order, point of order, point of order, point of order, Mr. President.
I am reclaiming my time. This is my time.
I have a point of order on the
Reclaiming
table,
my
Mr.
time.
President.
She's reclaiming her time, and she can finish what she has to say.
I am raising a point of order.
Reclaiming my time.
Mr. President, I'd like to call for the vote. All in favor of my point of order being upheld, please vote aye.
So, she's reclaiming her time.
Okay,
Thank you.
I call for a
So,
grand jury investigation into this board.
Okay, so anyway, let's get back to the censure that's before us. I'm on page 66.
I'd like to make a motion that the chair has vacated the seat of the presidency.
I'm reclaiming my time, Mr. President.
Please continue speaking.
Thank you. I don't expect to be interrupted again. If that is the case, you can make a statement that you're going to stop the meeting for a recess until the colleague at the end of the dais gets himself under control.
Please continue what you have to say.
I'm on page 66, Exhibit A, page 2 of 3. On or about May 23rd, 2017, Mr. Westwell addressed Trustee Clayton Tarvin, President and presiding officer of the body politic, with a disparaging comment. He said, and I quote, "Keep your pie hole closed." On or about November 14, 2017, Mr. Westwell made a gender derogatory statement to Trustee Clayton Tarvin, President and presiding officer of the body politic, stating, quote, "You act like a queen around here." On or about November 14, 2017, Mr. Westwell physically threatened another member of the body, Trustee Clayton Tarvin, by violently and repeatedly slamming his fists on the dais while bragging about his website, crookedgnet.com. On or about April 27, 2018, Mr. Westwell sent an email to Superintendent Hansen and the body, which involved the following unwelcome taunting to Dr. Hansen and Trustee Clayton Tarvin. Quote, and he said, "Don't get your panties in a bunch."
Oh my God.
On or about Tuesday, February 5th, 2019, Mr. Westwell sexually harassed a member of the body, Trustee Gina Clayton Tarvin, by taunting and harassing her in closed session with unwelcome innuendo when he repeatedly puckered his lips with visual and audible kissing gestures, which every single member of this board saw, Mr. Avila saw and witnessed, Dr. Conroy saw and witnessed, Dr. Hansen saw and witnessed. On or about Tuesday, February 5th, 2019, Mr. Westwell produced a 4-letter epithet laced gesture with his middle finger raised to the members of the body in closed session. I will not be exhibiting that for you this evening because it's offensive. On or about Tuesday, February 5th, 2019, Mr. Westwell stated in public session a personal and physical disability in both of his arms with clear 4-letter epithet laced implications when he claimed, and I quote, "I have a disability so that when I am forced to raise my arm for recognition, my middle finger is extended," end quote. And that's just part of it. That's just part of it. You know, here's the thing. We can disagree with each other as colleagues, as professionals, as elected members of this body. But to do things like this are so dishonorable, disrespectful, unprofessional, and frankly shameful. We are the trustees. We are the fiduciaries of a school system that is in care of close to 10,000 young lives. Why does my colleague at the end of the dais persist in his disgusting behavior towards the children of the Ocean View School District in care of me and the others, including Dr. Hansen? She is our employee. If Dr. Hansen chose to take action and sue the board, she could for his demeaning behavior and actions towards her that we haven't even outlined all of them here. Do you realize what that puts you in as taxpayers, the peril it puts you in? Should we have one of our employees? I'm not an employee. She's an employee. That would cost us hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars in litigation if she chose to do that. I implore my colleague at the end of the dais to stop his behavior, stop his shameful actions, and stop denying them because it's pathological. Stop. Please stop so that we can all go on and do the business of the school district. And lastly, Mr. President, I would like for you to take an inventory right now down the dais with this question. Did you, Trustee C, Trustee Westwell, sexually harass me in closed session by making unwanted sexual gestures towards me, by making kissing sounds and puckering his lips against towards me?
Mr. President,
Did you?
Mr. President, we don't.
Mr. President, please
Point of
ask
order.
that of
You're out of
Trustee
order,
Sowers.
Well, you haven't stood up or raised your hand.
Point of order,
Out of
I'm
Trustee
speaking like
Sowers,
everyone
please.
else does on a motion like
Go
this.
ahead, Trustee
I'm asking for a
Briscoe.
point of order.
If
You're
you'd like to
speaking
be
disparagingly
recognized.
about me, Mr. President, you're not calling her to order. Thank you.
Please query Trustee Souders, Trustee Singer. You can also answer for yourself. Query the superintendent, the deputy superintendent, and the assistant superintendent right now.
As to the board member at the end of the dais, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
I'll do umbrage taken, Trustee Westwell, to any specific name references. That's an interesting question. I can certainly do that. Trustee Singer, did you see such an action? And Trustee Souders in closed session? And Superintendent Hansen?
Yes.
And Dr. Conroy, were you there? Yes. And I saw it as well. Mr. Avilan, the top negotiator in the state?
Yes.
Thank you. I'm going to read what I submitted and the reason that this is on the agenda. Whereas the governing board determines that Trustee Westwell's conduct is unacceptable, unprofessional, and a violation of board bylaws cited above. That's what this is about, citation of violation. Now therefore be resolved and ordered that the governing board of the Ocean View School District hereby finds the foregoing recitals are true and correct. So if we vote yes, we're saying yes, it's true and correct. We were there, we witnessed. Be it further resolved and ordered that based on these recitals, the governing board of the Ocean View School District hereby censures Trustee Norm Westwell and proclaims publicly that this board disapproves of the aforementioned conduct and finds it to be in violation of the board bylaws and unacceptable behavior that shall not be tolerated. Be it therefore further resolved and ordered that Trustee Norwell shall treat fellow board members and the public with dignity and respect at all times. That's all we're asking for. I appreciate the Los Angeles Times being here, because the purpose and reason for this is to make public what happened in closed session. That's abominable. And the way that that happens is by a board censure motion, and then the community learning all about Trustee Westwell and his behaviors, so they can make their assessment as to his representation on our board in the future, as determined by the voters. Unless there's moral turpitude, then it's a judge. But other than that, that's by the voters every 4 years. That's all I have to say. Is there any further discussion by the board? Trustee Souders?
I would like to just finish by saying that one of the books that we follow is sort of our leading example is Robert's Rules of Order. It's been mentioned here numerous times. One of the main propositions of this book is decorum, and being able to govern and discuss things civilly, and be able to be open to one another's ideas, even if we are not in agreement with one another's ideas. And what I have witnessed over the past, my term on the board, which is 5 years now, or coming up on 5 years now, is indecorous behavior on behalf of trustee to my right on several occasions. I do not take censure lightly. I take it seriously. My utmost desire is that we can get along as a board. Barring that, I would like to see us be able to debate with respect with one another and without name calling from either side.
Trustee Souders. Trustee Clayton.
When Trustee Souders is finished, I'm going to be calling the question.
Thank you, Trustee Souders.
I'm actually finished.
Trustee Clayton Tarvin.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to call the question.
There is no discussion and no debate on this. I need a second to call the question.
Second.
It's been moved by Trustee Clayton Tarvin, second by Trustee Singer to call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Westwell, no.
The motion passes 4-0. We move to an immediate vote on item 01, censure of Trustee Norm Westwell. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no.
Westwell, no.
The motion passes 4-0 with Trustee Westwell in opposition. Move on to item 02, Administrative Services, 2/18/2019, second interim report with a 7-minute presentation, please. Well, you guys are leaving. The best part's yet to come.
We have school tomorrow.
President Briscoe, trustees, Superintendent Hanson, Cabinet. Yes, tonight I'm presenting the second interim budget. All the information in this presentation does come out of this booklet that you received, I believe, on Friday evening. So I've provided different types of visuals in terms of the budget calendar. We just recently had the governor's budget proposal in January. Tonight is the second interim budget, which you will be asked to approve. We will continue the budget development through the remainder of the year, and in May, the governor will come out with the May revision to his budget proposal, and then the final budget will be presented to you 2 times in June. One is a draft, the first board meeting in June, and then the final board meeting in June for the budget adoption. Each budget is a 3-year budget, the current year and 2 subsequent years. Here at Second Interim, we are 3 months away from the next budget calendar, the next budget cycle, 2019-20, which would include 2019-20 and 2 subsequent years from there. Multi-year projections are just that, they're projections, they're estimates, the information that we have at the time, based upon the information we have at the time from a variety of sources. And so that information, as well as any other types of financial trends, the ADA, enrollment, budget, are included. And the focus is always going to be the bottom line, that we have enough reserves to cover our required reserves and meet our state requirements. Tonight's meeting and tonight's presentation will be following these component pieces, and I won't go into detail because we'll address each of those, but I wanted to outline what we'll be discussing tonight. These are the key assumptions. In the lighter colors are the assumptions that were presented to the board at first interim in December. The darker blue rows represent the information that was presented by the governor in his governor's January budget proposal. What's of particular interest to us are these 2 middle columns regarding the STRS rates. One of the proposals that the governor brought forth was to buy down the obligations for school districts in terms of the annual increase in percentages that the districts are obligated to pay each year. And you can see starting in 1920 that the rates are dropping by almost a full percentage point. So that really does have a positive impact on our district budget. Other assumptions, the LCFF program revenue funding is at full funding. We budget our ADA at 97% attendance. We are in a declining enrollment, and I will show you some trends later on. Our multi-year projections include step and column, and they're calculated certificated at 1.5% on an annual basis and classified at 0.75. Talk about the retirement contributions that we're required to make. We have increasing encroachment, which I will address later on. And then during the same time frame that was mentioned previously, we are continuing to work on the LCAP plan for this current year. We talked about opening the doors and the cost of opening the doors. And I want to be a little bit, provide a little bit more detail than what I've shared in the past. This presentation here in the blue section shows the revenue increase that we will be getting in 2019, 2020, 21 over the prior year. So in 2019-20, we're expecting to receive $427,637 additional dollars on top of what we have this year. That's not a lot of extra money. But what's important to understand, because of the LCFF, where that money is earmarked. Of that $427,000, the base, that is what we work off, the unrestricted base, is only $168,000. The $16,000 is for grade span adjustment, which goes to paying teachers, their salaries who are working in grades K-3. And the $242,000, that is the supplemental money that we are expected to be budgeting for our unduplicated students as part of the LCAP plan. So when you look at that, really we're talking $168,000, and at the same time we know that the PERS and STRS retirement increases is $700,000. The step and column is another $700,000. So we know before we even open the doors, we're looking at $1.4 million. Even if you take the whole $427,000, we're starting off $1 million short. And this is something that's been happening year after year after year for the last 5 years. And cumulatively, the PERS and STRS requirements from the time it started to now is almost $9 million. And there is no additional funding stream other than the LCFF base. And as you can tell, that's just a little chip in the block there. It doesn't do a lot. So I will reference this again, this $400,000 and the $142,000 in another slide, so you can see where it's really referenced. I mentioned enrollment and decline, and this comes out of this booklet here. As part of our calculations, we do have to provide an LCFF calculator, and it does calculate our previous enrollment in ADA, as well as what we projected to our enrollment to be. And when we look at, and I started the year that Dr. Hanson and I started, 2015-16, and if we project out to this next year's multi-year budget into 2021, we're looking at, during that 7-year period, a projected loss in grades K3 of 400 students, ADA. In grades 4-6, 445 loss. And then grades 7-8, another 395. That's a total of over 1,200 students of ADA in that 7-year span that we're losing. So that loss is something that we have to address year in and year out. And we'll address that in another slide. So I talked about the revenue. When you look at the revenue here, differences between what we project at 19-20 to what we have in 2018-19, there's that $427,000.
I'm not being mean, but there's a 3-minute warning.
I'm going to miss it. Sorry. And when you look at the 2021 to 19-20, there is the other $100,000 that I showed on the previous slide. And that impacts our bottom line in terms of our revenues. And you can see that the revenues for 18-19 and 19-20 is almost $1.5 million difference. And the primary piece of that comes from this year's budget. When Governor Brown established that budget, there was one-time monies. We had one-time discretionary monies. And our new governor, Newsom, is not projecting to have any one-time monies going into the future. So that does have an impact in terms of revenues right off the bat that we know in 19-20 we're not going to get. And so it really comes in the other state revenues, and you can see the difference there. Now that difference in state revenues, $2 million. Part of that is revenues in the current year. I mentioned the one-time discretionary monies, but we also have another $400,000 in the block rent that we received this year that we're now projecting for next year. So those one-time monies have a long-term effect. And then showing just in our next budget where we are in 4 years, you can see the continued increase in revenues, but the increase in revenues is very slight. So when we look at our revenues in whole, $90 million in total revenues, almost 80% of all of that comes from the LCFF. And knowing of that, for next year, we know just a little sliver of that is new monies. We look at our expenditures. Here's our expenditure pattern for 2018-19 into the next years, and then I also included, when we come in June, what we're projecting and what we can see in our next budget for starting in 2019-20. Our expenses do continue to increase, and the primary and the biggest issue when we look at expenses, when you look at employee benefits, you can see the growth. And that growth in that fourth row is primarily because of conversion service and the step in college. And they outpace the new growth that we get from the LCFF. When we look at our total expenditures, $90 million in expenditures, and when we look at the unrestricted labor costs, and that's primarily where we live in the unrestricted, 87% of that budget is for labor. Salaries, benefits for all employees. Now when we look, I've never been really asked, said, why do we have such high expenditures for personnel? And when you're looking, and you're anywhere between 85 and 90% of your overall budget is on people, how do you get there? We know, we've talked, and as part of negotiations, that we acknowledge that we have low salary schedules. Well, if you have a low number and you have a high ending number, the only other number that could be involved there is the number of employees. And since we've come here, one of the things that we've been doing is trying to adjust and to align our staffing with our enrollment. And as our enrollment continues to decrease, we have to continue to address the staffing so that they align. And we're looking at our staffing formulas and addressing that. And as we look at the out years in 1920, in 2021 and on, we have budget reductions for staffing to address that. When we look at our general fund summary, we start with our revenues. And here's our 4-year budget plan, and looking at the next years, and you can see that we are deficit spending. And we need to acknowledge that part of that structural impact on our deficit spending has to do with, I'm just going to point out the PERS and STIRS piece. That is significant. When we look at our budget right now, our ending balance at $10,600,000 is equivalent to 11.7%. That's what we have in reserves, almost 12% reserves. I know I was asked before, what was it recommended? The Government Finance Officers Association recommends that reserves at a minimum would be equal to 2 months of your general operating funds, which that's what I shared in a previous board meeting was about 17%. We're not there, but we're working towards it at the same time of having a structured budget. You mentioned that we're encroaching onto the general fund. We have restricted programs, meaning we have restricted programs that its funding is not enough to support the program, and the general fund has to assist in supporting that. Our special education programs, we contribute $11.5 million this year. Routine restricted maintenance, that's a requirement based upon state statute that we have to, we're required to contribute 3% of our budget to routine restricted maintenance, and that's part of the building fund, and that's part of having an opportunity to receive state monies for modernization. We have a federal preschool program that we contribute $15,000. Our total contribution donation to the restricted programs is $14 million. That's almost $1.3 million more than last year, almost a 10% increase than what we contributed last year. So you can see that these programs continue to have an impact on our budget. We look at the components of the ending fund balance. It's our reserves. What are our reserves made up of? And when you look, we have our revolving cash, we have our stores. Those are the first two lines. That stores, that's our warehouse. We have $1 million of legally restricted funding. That's primarily coming from our restricted side of the budget, our title programs, Title I, etc. We did give a retro this year, and we just paid out to classified employees, so that is coming out of the reserves. So we've identified it, and we've assigned what that cost was for this year, $141,000. We continue also every year to address what is not spent out of the district contribution to employees or employee benefits. What's not used, we reserve and assign that dollar amount in the reserves. At a previous board meeting, Mr. Cho had given a presentation of heavy equipment that was needed in the district, and the board agreed that we needed to move that direction. So we've assigned $200,000 that will be spent this year for that heavy equipment. And I'm sure if our CSDA president were to come up, he would share the truck that he's currently using to what he may be using in the future, and by that is remarkably different. When we look at, we have unrestricted lottery, we have reserved there almost $1.3 million. And then we have our 3%. That is what we're required to have in our reserves, 3% of our total expenditures in reserve for economic uncertainties, and that's $2.7 million. What we have left is our emergency reserve. It is almost $5 million, $4.9 million. That is 5.5% above the 3%. Just that one line, that emergency reserve. It's 5% above the 3%. But when you add up all of that, it equals $10.6 million, which is 11%. And then as we go into the next year, because of deficit spending, it drops to that emergency reserve. You can see it dwindles down because we're addressing deficit spending, and it drops to 3.5% above the 3%. And then the last year, it's just a pinch above 0%. We've mentioned deficit spending, and I've really addressed and tried to bring home the importance of what the impact of the PERS and STIRS has on us. So I wanted to kind of put this in a little bit of context. When we look at the top part of this slide, we've shown the increase year over year over the prior year of the PERS and STIRS increase. 2018-19, we're paying $1.1 million more than we did in 17-18. And as I showed on that previous slide, in 2019-20, it's $700,000, and in 2021, it's $816,000. And that contributes to our deficit spending because our expenses are higher than our revenues, and so our ending balance is reduced, our beginning fund balance is reduced by that $633,000. And that gives us the 10.6. And as we go over in the columns to the right, you can see that deficit spending increases. So the question is, you know, there's been questions about deficit spending, and it's alluded that what are we doing as a district? If we did not have the PERS and STIRS, if we were to cut it off this year and the governor said we're going to fully fund it and the district does not have to pay for it, we would be looking at a current year that we would have a surplus. And realize that right now in the structural part of our budget, there's $9 million in the last 5 years that we've been paying, that we continue to pay. That's still part of this calculation, but if we just started today, we would have a surplus. And as you go out the next 2 years, yes, there's a little deficit, but when you talk about $244,000 down to $80,000 in comparison to $2 million, I would say, based upon Dr. Hansen's guidance and direction in terms of how we manage the district, is that we are doing what we're supposed to be doing. We are doing the job that the board has hired us to do in terms of being fiscally responsible. What we don't have control about is what we're required to maintain and to contribute because of the PERS and STIRS, which the governor 5 years ago put on the doorsteps of school districts. Almost, and I'm not saying this is a reason, but almost every district in Orange County is deficit spending, and I can identify 2 districts that are not. One is Newport Mesa, and they're a basic aid district. The other is Irvine Unified School District, and they are growing leaps and bounds because of increased housing and enrollment going into that district. And so when you take those districts out and compare to everybody else, you know, everybody else is you know, got they're not unique like those 2 districts. And that's not saying that it's one thing or another, but it's important to understand the context within Orange County, which is the same context that you will see across the state. And when we get to a point where the recession that is looming, that will come because we're starting to see the economic downturn. The Legislative Analyst Office has said because we are fully funded with the LCFF and there is no more paybacks owed to education, school districts are on their own to be able to address any type of economic turn down with the reserves that they have built in. And that's important to acknowledge. Now, what I've shared with you, that's budget. That's a plan. This slide is really the most important slide of the whole presentation. This is cash. Cash is king. If you don't have money in the bank, you can't operate. And so all these bars here are showing that what we project out through the end of the year is that we do have the cash on hand that we can maintain all of our expected expenditures through the end of the school year. And that's the most important, because any of those bars, if they were below the zero, we would be looking at borrowing from the bank to get through to the end of the school year. And we're not, because we've got good cash flow. So as I end, you know, the challenges, I've talked about the deficit, we've talked about declining enrollment. I think it's important to understand, as we move forward, we've got issues with declining enrollment. We know that the LCFF is now COLA only. And as you can see from that base funding piece, that included the 3.7% COLA for this year, and it only yielded $168,000 in base revenues. It's not enough to do what we need to do as a district. We have a slowdown of growth, Prop 98 growth. Talked about the COLA, we talked about the encroachment, talked about no funding source for STIRS and PERS. Collective bargaining is ongoing. We're getting ready to start. So that is not reflected in the second interim budget because we haven't come to any settlement. And just recently, the State Department of Finance released the revenues receipts for December and January, and they are 3% less than what was projected, and the legislative analyst has projected that the COLA in May is going to be reduced from what it is now. So that's something that we need to keep an eye on. So, what's the big message for you tonight? Is that we're presenting to you that we have a positive certification, meaning that we can fund, and we can budget that the current year and the next 2 subsequent years, and that we have enough funding to do so, and that we're looking at a positive certification from you tonight to accept that and approve that. So as we move on, we're going to ask that you self-certify tonight a positive budget. And from now to the end of the school year, we'll be working on budget development for 2019-20. At the same time, we'll be working on the LCAP development to present to you in June. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Conroy. Any questions from the board? Thank you, Trustee Singer.
I just want to once again commend you for really guiding us and ensuring that we are in a positive cash flow situation. It's been said before that we're deficit spending, and I think with this presentation it provides. And yes, I know we went a little long, but I think in effort of transparency, I don't mind these reports going a little long. I think that we need to hear it, and I think the public needs to hear it. This is the kind of information that our parents need to be aware of, and I think that it's great that we can do that. So I thank you for doing that. I really appreciate it.
I would like to acknowledge that my right-hand man here, Keith Farrell, Director of Fiscal Services, he's the backbone behind all of this. He spent countless hours with he and his staff, and I do want to acknowledge he and his staff.
Thank you, Keith. We appreciate it.
Trustee Clayton-Carmen.
Dr. Conroy, you mentioned that Governor Brown had set aside at different years one-time monies, pots of one-time monies, and that you don't believe that Governor Newsom's going to be doing so. He hasn't done that this year, is that correct?
It's a different person, different budgeting model. As we know, Governor Brown routinely underestimated revenues, and then when they came in in January, he provided those as one-time monies. He could have put them as ongoing, but he only presented it as one time. Governor Newsom has taken a different approach, and there is no when this January budget came out, he did not have any one-time monies built in. So again, this is year one. We don't know what will happen in year 2 or 3 as we move forward, but there is no expectation that we're going to have one-time monies as we have in the past.
But the way that you're seeing his budgeting style is that do you feel like he's gonna be putting the money in, or his budgeting, the way that he's budgeting, that things are gonna be looked at more like an ongoing monies rather than, oops, now we have this extra money, now what do we do with it? Oh, let's put it as a one-time, and then people get their one-time bump, and then that doesn't really help. As a teacher, I can tell you it's not something that we look forward to. So
from a long-term perspective, Governor Brown could have put it as ongoing, but he didn't. Governor Newsom, it's when Governor Newsom presented the January budget, he'd only been in office 3 months, so it's a little premature to really say what his style is. There'll be some adjustments when we get to May revise, but as we get in, really to next year's budget, we'll really start to see what his style is. We do know some of his focal points. He's very high on early childhood education and college education, career to college as well. So we're starting to see some of those initiatives. They are on the outside of Prop 98, so that is a good thing because they were included. That would just mean less in the Prop 98 budget. But we'll see how that continues. I know there's conversations of categorical programs coming back in some type of fashion. They won't be called categorical. There's a new word for categorical. They're called grants.
Thank you. Trustee Souders.
Yes, thank you, President Briscoe. Can I address the speaker?
Yes, okay. Address me.
Okay. I had a couple questions, so bear with me. First, statewide decline in attendance. Do we have any reason? Is it statewide, number one? And do we have any, if so or if not, do we have any knowledge as to why our attendance continues to decline?
Are you able to address declining student body count in the district versus declining participation in our public schools?
All I can go in terms of the declining student, the phrase that you used, is going on historical data that we keep track of and look at the cohort trends and then use those same trends to project forward. When we do, we can't answer why but we look at what the impact is when the numbers come in, and that's what we build our budget on. And that slide that I showed with the ADA, that is historically looking at what the ADA was, and then we're projecting at 97%. And really, for the last 5 years, we have been, tenths of a percent off of the 97%. So we've been really, really close in terms of our projections, and working with the schools, and the principal's doing a very admirable job in getting students to come to school. But I can't address why. From a state perspective, we're looking at, I think it's about a 1% decline statewide. But then you do have areas like Irvine. They have a lot of land, and they got a lot of construction for housing growth going there. But we do see statewide that the housing market is starting to slow.
Okay, so my second question, Mr. President, is it seems to me, hearing this, that what's killing us basically is stirs and purrs. If we could get out from underneath that, we would be in the black again, so to speak. So, what can we as a district do about stirs and purrs?
The stirs and purrs obligation?
Yes.
The only thing that really could do is when Trustee Clayton Tarvin and Trustee Singer go to Sacramento, is share the impact that this obligation is having on school districts, because it's not just us, it's every other school district. But as it's been shared before, the state has a conundrum regarding the STIRS liability when we looked at it somewhere between $35 and $40 billion. What we're contributing is just a small portion of that. And we could add money to that, but it's not going to help us. Employees could add more to, but it's not going to help them. This is a statewide issue, and it's something that, from the STIRS and the PERS boards in terms of their investment policies and that, of getting the best opportunity for investment growth. And there's a lot of questions, at least on the STIRS side, of the decision making there. In addition to when they do the actuarials, because as these monies have come in, it has impacted the amount that's going in, and the actuarial will change. The more that we get Governor Newsom to buy down the obligations like he did this year will help.
That was my last question. Was I read, I believe in something that came from CSBA, that one of the things that Governor Newsom, that's kind of cool. That Governor Newsom was talking about doing was buying down the STIRS and PERS contribution to the schools. Do you have any idea how long that is, or how serious he is about that?
Well, he contributed, so we're $3 million ongoing for these next 2 years, which has an ongoing positive impact for us. And so if he's able to do that on a continuing basis, that is going to help school districts. But realize we're right about 18%. When we started, we were, I think, like at 9%. We doubled the contribution amount these last 5 years. And so that really, that's 9% that used to be in the district budget that is now going to this contribution.
Okay, thank you.
Trustee Bisco, I'd like to be recognized, please.
Raise your hand up or stand up, please, Trustee Westwell.
All right.
Whatever's your favor. Thank you, Trustee Westwell.
Thank you for recognizing me, Mr. President. I'd like to raise a point of order, and I ask that you move slowly so that we can proceed through this rather than trampling my rights. May I proceed?
Yes, please proceed.
Thank you. I'd like to raise a point of parliamentary inquiry. I'm not being recognized by...
Trustee Westwell, we have a speaker, and we're having questions. This isn't... You're out of order.
I'm making a point of order because you said that I needed to stand in order to be recognized, and I want to have a point of order ruled on regarding this ruling that you keep saying over and over and over and over that I need to do something a specific way the way you're saying it by fiat. It's a point of order, Mr. President. Can I please state it?
No.
May I please state my point of order, Mr. President? It's my right under the Robert's Rules of Order.
Is there any other?
Thank you, Mr. President.
The board on this agenda item, with our presenter on item 02. I have some questions. If we had if the contribution rate on PERS and STIRS goes from 18% to 21%, 3 points up, what does that resemble in total contra?
Point of order, Mr. President. I had the floor at the time, and you've taken the floor away from me.
Yes, I have. I'm really out of order.
Well, at the proper time, I'd like to ask questions like the rest of the trustees as well.
Are you ready to ask a question of the speaker, Trustee Westphal?
Yes, Mr. President, I've been ready.
Okay, please ask.
Thank you, Mr. President. If we approve this tonight, I see on here on page 1, that's how it's listed here, page 1. But if you go to the multi-year projection tab, and you back up one page, you'll be looking at the same thing I'm looking at. It says page 1 at the bottom. And it shows a low-performing students block grant of $405,085. Are we all there? This block grant is on the agenda tonight as item 07. If we approve this second interim budget tonight without approving 07, how do we justify these numbers, the 405,000? We haven't approved this yet. Isn't it out of order? What implications will this have if we approve this without actually approving the grant, and how is that going to affect the numbers in the approved?
Well, I guess it's just a matter of the order in which they were put on the agenda. We already have the money. So if we adopt the budget, in essence, we're approving it, but if you turn around and disapprove the budget, then we'll send the money back to the state.
Thank you.
Is that it, Trustee Westphal?
Well, I'd like to have my point of order ruled out, but you've said you're not going to, so thank you.
So if the contribution rate went up 3%, what does that resemble in compensation? In other words, a 3% up in PERS and STIRS contributions does not equal a 3% raise or loss of a raise in pay or opportunity for compensation. Is it like a 1% for every 3% up? It's 1% in the pay column.
It's not quite that clear cut because it's a percentage of salaries, so that number is always revolving. But if you look at 2019-20 on this slide here, we know that the COLA for 19-20 is right now projected at 3.46%. So we know that the PERS and STIRS increase is $700,000. So we know that 3% impact is about $700,000. So to answer your question, $700,000
is what percent of the amount of the?
That's the increase. That's the PERS increase.
Right.
Relative to that 3% COLA. Now, that 3% COLA does not necessarily mean that's been adjusted in salaries. That's just what the salaries are right now. As we project going from 2018-19 to 19-20, that we're looking at an increase of $700,000. That is equivalent to the PERS, the STIRS increase of, just under 1%, going from 16.28% to 17.1. That less than 1%, it costs us is going to cost us $700,000.
Okay, thank you. It's a big encroachment, but it's not a one-for-one encroachment. It's a percentile encroachment. And we should understand that PERS and STIRS increases are an encroachment and a growing encroachment that we're required to pay. So I'm looking at encroachments. Is the Kids Club an encroachment?
The Kids Club, the after-school program, no, because it's a fee-based.
So it's all fee-based, all self-funding. And do we have that in all the middle schools now?
I don't believe in all the middle schools. 2 or 3.
Thank you.
Two schools.
So the paid preschool, is that a mandate of paid preschool at the preparatory school? Is that a state required program?
No, we do have a state preschool program. The Ocean View Preparatory Preschool is
not required.
Is a fee-based. It's optional. It's something that we've done in the district.
Does that currently encroach?
Yes, it is.
And have we fixed that problem?
We are working towards that. At the last board meeting, there was an information piece that was presented to the board. We will present, I believe it's the next board meeting, what the staff is recommending in terms of new fees. For last
Is that
year,
encroachment as big as $500,000 in the impending year ahead?
we're estimating the current year where it's gonna be close to $450,000.
Thank you. And that is being looked at.
Yes.
So the third is Gingy. Hello, Gingy. Busing. She's told me that she wants 3 keisters in every seat. More riders is more money. What are we doing to, and reduces the encroachment? If the bus is gonna run anyway every day, more riders is more revenue and less encroachment. What are we doing to increase ridership? What have we done? We know that when we advertised and pushed big, pushed big on buses and put a fee schedule in that was bigger, the ridership actually went up. What are we doing to increase our bus ridership, increase our revenue for paid riders, and thereby reduce the encroachment?
Well, I think that's gonna take a bigger conversation with the board at a later time, because you're talking about increasing fees, and that would take a much larger conversation with the board that I wouldn't be able to address right now.
Okay.
Although, transportation is encroaching onto the general fund. It wasn't part of that encroachment page because it's not a restricted program, but we are contributing, over $2 million to support transportation.
So I'll recognize you in a minute, Trustee Westphal, and I'm done. Number 4, attendance. What if we increased our ADA from 97 to 98%?
Well, that would have a positive impact on our calculation. I couldn't tell you what the impact.
Is it worth pursuing? Are we doing things to?
It's worth pursuing. We are addressing on a monthly basis with our principals at 97%. It is a challenge by the time you get to this point in the school year in any district that I've been at, and it tends to drop down as you get to springtime.
So the next on that is the Saturday school credit recovery. Other school districts do that, and successfully. We didn't do it successfully for a whole lot of reasons. Have we looked at that?
We have not, but that's not, we could talk with the superintendent and we can look at that.
There's as many as 1,000 homeschool students in our district living in our district or more. There's 30 CHEP school students. If we were able to acquire those students into a homeschool program of our own, would that provide the ADA and help change that?
That would be a positive, and we have had discussions about something like that here in the district.
The special ed, so if a charter school comes into our district and tells us that all their students are special, kind of above average, and special, and then it turns out they're not able to educate them, are we required to educate them if they leave that school?
But if we had any of our students left Ocean View School District and went to the charter.
Not our students, just students from afar.
No, we're only obligated for the students that are in our attendance boundary. So if a student from Huntington Beach City went to the charter and then left the charter and returned to Huntington Beach City would have to do with whatever limitations that student would bring back to them.
If we approve the charter, then they would be our enrollees and our responsibility. But if we don't, and the county approves it, then they are the responsibility of the county.
It's what you're referring to is the oversight of the charter. Students, Ocean View School District students that would leave our district to go to the charter and then return is our obligation. Since we didn't approve it, it's going to be the county's responsibility to oversee the charter to make sure they're doing what they said they're going to do.
Okay, so the enrollment piece, because that encroachment for special ed is giant. It would get a lot bigger if there were problems.
And we are looking at that, and we're strategizing how to address that.
You said the COLA is projected to be reduced in May of 2019. That's a federal figure based on cost of operating a governmental agency. What did that mean when you said that? That's my last question.
The Legislative Analyst Office, the LAO, is the one that made that comment, that they're expecting a slight reduction in the COLA, just because of looking at, and again, I know it's a federal-based calculation, but they're looking at a reduction in our revenues, and partially that has an impact because of the new tax laws. So whether that comes to fruition or not, they do project not only in California, but how the COLA from the federal perspective, nationwide perspective, has on California.
So the COLA may have been 5% this year, and because of the economy and their projections, it could be 4% next year.
Correct.
Thank you. That concludes my comments. Trustee Westphal, did you have a question for the speaker?
Not of the speaker, Mr. President, but I
Thank you.
do have a question.
We're gonna come and
A
go.
point of information.
What would that be, trustee Westfall?
I'd like to know what the motion is on the table at the moment.
Motion to table with item 02, administrative services, second interim report on the agenda for action.
And what is the motion on the table, Mr. President, is my question.
Motion on the table is to, I'm gonna call for a vote if there's no more discussion on the agenda item.
I'm sorry, I'd like to ask a point of information, Mr. President. I'm seeking information from you. What is the current motion on the floor, Mr. President?
Motion on the floor is to approve the agenda item 02.
And who made that motion?
Well, I made it.
And who seconded?
No, I made the motion. Did we have a second?
Thank you, Mr. President. You answered my question.
And Clayton Carter, okay. So, and then, the presentation first, that's what we did. Thank you. Thank you, trustee Westwell. So the presentation is over.
I'm sorry, I'm
and
confused, Mr. President. You gave me conflicting information. Do we have a motion or not a motion?
I'm gonna call for a motion.
Mr. President, I'm seeking a point of information. Do we currently, right now, at this moment, as I started asking my question before we started deliberating, this is another thing, we shouldn't be deliberating on this, you should just give me an answer. So when I asked the question, did we have a motion on the table when I asked the question the first time?
I believe at a presentation, we have so trustee Clayton Carter.
First point of information, when you called the agenda item, I believe that you made a motion. Okay, just in case that you didn't, I would like to make a motion to approve the second interim report.
It's been moved by Tarvin. I'll second it. Briscoe seconded it. So now we have a motion on the table. Thank you, trustee Westwell. Is there any further discussion or questions? I'm going to call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
Westwell, no.
The motion is approved 4-0 with Westwell in opposition. We go to item 03, administrative services, acceptance of apparent bid results and delegation of authority to award contracts for the fencing project, phase 1. This is on the agenda for action. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Please stand up or raise your hand, trustee Westwell. I'm not going to recognize you.
For the record, my hand is up, Mr.
You don't
President.
stand up or raise your hand up, I'm not going to recognize you. So I see no other discussion. I'm going to call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Westwell, no.
4-0 with Westwell in opposition. Item 04, administrative services, revision of initial proposal to purchase and construct modular building for central kitchen project on the agenda for action. Do I hear a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
I'll
Saunders?
second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Yes, Mr. President.
So raise your hand or stand up, trustee Westwell.
My hand is raised,
I'm
Mr.
not going to
President.
recognize that. The chair does not recognize that hand raised.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? All those, I'm going to call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Westwell, no.
The motion is approved, 4-0 with Westwell in opposition. Item 05, Administrative Services Resolution Number 13:1819, application for funding under the Full Day Kindergarten Facilities Grant Program, FDKFGP. On the agenda for action, do I hear a motion to approve?
I will move.
Is there a second? Second. Moved by Singer, second by Souders. Is there any discussion? I see no discussion. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? It's approved 5-0. Item 06, Educational Services, 2018-2019, consolidated application for funding category 8 programs, winter data collection on the agenda for action. Do I hear a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? I see no discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? It's approved 5-0. Item 07, Educational Services, 2018-19, Low Performing Students Block Grant, LPSBG. Application for funding identified students on the agenda for action tonight. Do I hear a motion for a motion?
I will move. Second.
Is there any discussion?
Yes, Mr. President.
Would you please raise your hand or stand up, Trustee Westwell? I don't recognize that. Superintendent Hanson, could you make a brief statement about what this is? Sorry, Trustee Clayton-Tarman.
Well, I want to say that as a classroom teacher, I actually have students, I believe there's 1 or 2 in my class that have been identified, and some of these grant monies are being used. And what it has, where I work in ABC Unified School District, is what is happening is with these identified students that don't qualify under free and reduced or ELLs, or the way the LCFF looks at students that are considered sort of high risk. These are students that don't fall within those sort of categories, and the way that it's being utilized is that monies are being used to have teachers of those students work with those students after school to do intervention. So the money is being given to the teachers themselves in hourly wages to be able to work with those students to hopefully get them up to speed or doing better before CASP testing time. It's just for your information.
Thank you, Trustee Clayton-Tarman. My brother teaches at Riverside Unified at Ramona High School. He tells me that they have anywhere from 20 to 30 students every year that come into their school, recent arrival students at age 13 and 14 and older, who have never, ever been in school. Never been in school. Or maybe they had a first or second grade education where they came from. What do you do with that? How do you... And he said, well, we just do our best. We start teaching and teach away. There's a lot of work to be done educating our diverse population. That's just one example, and it's huge. So this is the low-performing students, and I think it's great. I'm glad that we're able to apply for that and get it. Is there any further discussion? I'm going to call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. 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 All those opposed? Passes 5-0. Item 08, Human Resources, openers for contract negotiations between Ocean View School District, Ocean View School District of Orange County, and Ocean View Teachers Association for the 2018-2019 school year on their agenda for action. Do I hear a motion to approve?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Okay, I see no discussion. I'm going to call. Oh, hand raised. That's an eyebrow itch. So I'm going to call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed?
Westwell, no.
Passes 4-0 with Westwell in opposition. Item 09, Superintendent's Office proposed additions, revisions to
Point of order, Mr. President. What was the vote? Last vote count on that?
4-0 with Trustee Westwell in opposition.
So you're counting me as an O vote, a 0?
As a 4-1, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I appreciate it when you count my votes correctly. Thank you.
So 4-1, I stand corrected. Thank you, Trustee Westwell. So we have Superintendent's Office 09, proposed additions, revisions to Board Policy to Series 2000, Administration Board Policy and Exhibit 2100, Administrative Staff Organization. This is first reading for information only. It's available for everybody in the audience to look at if you're on the agenda. It's a small change in the organizational titling, as I recall. It's on for information. Are there any questions from the board? Trustee Souders?
Why did they change it from curriculum instruction and assessment to teaching and learning?
Trustee, Superintendent Hanson, could you enlighten us?
It's the terminology that we use, and we feel that it's more recognizable. It's what we're doing. We're talking about teaching and learning.
Okay. Might be a little better.
Any other questions or comments? I'll recognize you when you stand up or raise your hand, Trustee Westphal. Okay, I see none. Information is done. No more questions. Thank you, Superintendent Hanson. We're on to item P. Any other public communications to the Board of Trustees?
We have one. Emily Anderson. Come on down. Price is right.
Dr. Coleman was clearly the last one here. Okay, again, it's Emily Anderson, and to answer your question in layman terms, I guess simplicity, Briscoe, What do we teachers do? Label our classrooms, everything from the stapler to the door. Stay in lunch, after school, tutor, etc., all to help all kids. Oh, and let's not forget, that's all extra time, free, not paid. To those that think teachers get paid so much. I just wanted to, say a quick recap on tonight. I've met with various people in this room in various capacities regarding my kids, various issues of sorts, and I, for one, am appreciative of every person I know. I've been to the Orange County Board meeting. I'm one of few parents that have gone last time they were born, and I'll continue and I'll be there tomorrow. I know that Mr. Souders, you work in Long Beach. I know you hadn't been at those previously, but you certainly would if you could. Mr. Brisky, you were there last time. Patricia, you were there. Ms. Hanson, Hofer. One person, and again, I don't understand, Norm Westwell, why haven't you been in the board meetings? Because for whatever reason, you stand in opposition to everything that goes on in this board, and I frankly don't understand it. And you were elected by the people in this city, for whatever reason, and we just want peace. I think most people would agree with that. We want harmony, peace, working together. Why do you sit and stare at the back of the room? You never even look at people when they are up here speaking, while every single other person, they're looking at me in the face right now. And I appreciate that. You are here to serve us, every single one of you. Serve the people in this room, every single other person. That's your job. You're elected. I think everyone understands that. But for some reason, there's just this condescension, negativity. I mean, it needs to stop. Now, I don't know why you continue to keep raising your hand with your elbow on the desk. That's not raising your hand high. Don't look at me. I don't care. Don't look at me. Because you don't respect women ever. So I'm not surprised that you're not now. You're going to continue to be ignored. If you can't follow the rules that have been set, you will continue to be ignored. You will continue to have pissed off parents. Because, right, my daughter's sitting right here because she wanted to come sit by me. Do I want her there right now? No. I will never let any man or anyone else disrespect me in front of my children, nor will I let you to any other women on this board or anyone. But Mr. Souders and Mr. Briscoe, don't treat other people that way. All we want is that to change. It's simple. Somehow, it needs to change. That's all. It's simple. You don't have to agree with what anyone says. I disagree with Gina all the time. I'm generally a Republican. She's a Democrat, but we're friends. Simple as that. You don't have to agree. You don't have to like people, but you do need to get along.
Any other speakers? Trustee Souders?
None that I'm aware of.
Thank you. We're on to item number Q, future agenda items. I see no hands raised or anybody standing. Trustee Westwell?
Thank you, Mr. President. I have a question for our superintendent and for you, Mr. President. I have made more than a dozen, I don't know the exact number, maybe a couple of dozen since I've been on the board again this time, requests to have agenda items placed onto the agenda. And as of today, none of them have been put onto the agenda. They're all being ignored. And so I would like to have parliamentary ruling, because I've been told here that the only way I can put stuff onto the agenda is using form E9322. And I'm looking at AR 9322, and this is all, there's 3 ways a board member can put materials onto the agenda. A, by consensus of the board during a legally posted meeting. B, by contacting the superintendent and board president in writing using form E9322. And C, by requesting under future agenda items as requested by board members on the regular board of agenda, which is the item that we're on right now. And it's the same item that I've requested numerous agenda items, and other board members have also requested numerous items, and none of them have been brought forward. So I would like to know from the superintendent why we're not following AR 9322 and why none of my agenda item requests are ever making it here to the dais so that we can discuss it. They are never agendized.
Thank you, Trustee
Can
Westphal.
that be explained to me? Because I don't understand.
Yes, I will. And you were board president yourself at one time. There's three methods of putting items on the agenda. One is to have a consensus of everybody, as you stated. Two, it can be put on the agenda by the board president. I set the agenda. That's my main task. That's what the president does. I meet with the superintendent and we set the agenda. I have not seen fit to put any of the items on the agenda, whatever it was that you wanted, and that's my task, elected by the board, the five of us, to be the president to set the agenda. The third method is under California state law, and I would encourage you to take the time and effort to submit an agenda item. In our board, you must fill out the form that tells us how much it's going to cost and the amount of time it might take, and then attached to that, you submit your agenda item. It could be handwritten. It doesn't even have to be typed. The three approaches to agendizing items is not a buffet that you can eat from anything that you want. It's three different methods of putting items on the agenda. I would encourage you, welcome you, go home right now, tonight, at 9:10, and write up an agenda item and submit it. By state law, we're required to look at it and put it on the agenda, and I will do my best to have it on the next agenda or the agenda after, and it will be considered, fully considered. So the way to put things on the agenda is one of those three, and the other one is always open to under California state law.
Mr. President, my question was why haven't we put all the previous ones that I submitted onto any agenda? Because none of them have come forward. And when I read here, there are three methods here. They are not exclusive.
Point of order. This is for requests only. We are having unagendized debate.
Thank you.
And we are violating the Brown Act.
I'm gaveling myself down and closing the discussion on this matter. If I'd like to talk about Trustee Westphal, bring it up in trustees round table. No, it's inappropriate and I'm calling it out of order, me and you both. Thank you. We're going to go on to future agenda items. Did you have something specific for an agenda item, Trustee Westphal?
Yes.
What is the agenda item?
I would dearly love to get back to the business of this district and talk about accountability, one thing I'd like to see, and another one is strategies to address the almost 50% of our precious students who are not achieving state standards. Seems like the last thing we want to talk about here is our student achievement. I'd like to see it put on the agenda so that we can talk about it, because actually it's one of the top things that we should be monitoring here in Board Bylaw 9000. We should be talking about monitoring student progress.
Student achievement and the other item, student achievement, what was the other item?
Another item is the serious board bylaw and Robert's Rules of Order violations that constantly happen here.
Thank you. So we're on to item number R, Board of Trustees Roundtable, starting with Trustee Singer.
Thank you for hanging in there with us. We really appreciate it. This definitely has been a colorful meeting, as I like to say. I hope you guys all have a great night, and we're keeping it short because it is Cindy Lee's birthday after all. So we need to get her in here pretty soon, and we want to celebrate her. So happy birthday, Cindy Lee. Thank you for everything you do for us and everything you assist us with. She gets us our emails. She drops off our agendas. We couldn't do what we do without you. So thank you so much, and happy birthday to you.
Trustee Souter.
Happy birthday, Cindy Lee. The best gift I can give you right now is to stop talking.
Trustee Westphal.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am really disappointed with this board. You know, we're all up here supposed to be working together. If the rules are violated, it's up to all of us to make sure that they're done correctly. When my rights are violated, it's not just up to Trustee Briscoe to watch out for my rights not being trampled.
Please speak of the president and my title.
Mr. President, this is my time to speak, and now you're interrupting me yet again, violating another bylaw. This is my time to speak, not yours, Mr. President. Thank you. You constantly interrupt me. You constantly try to stifle my speech. You constantly try to bully me. You constantly rule about things that are incorrect. You stop me from trying to present.
Stop banging the dais. That's annoying to all the rest of me and other trustees.
Well, one of the bylaws in our bylaws, Mr. President, is you need to be respectful of the different styles and perspectives of all of the trustees on the board. Now, I don't ask you to be just like me, and I don't expect it to be just like you, but I do expect you to follow the rules. And I expect you to rule on things like you're supposed to. And when you rule on things, you should know about it, or you should send it to the body for a ruling, not just make rulings out of thin air, which are wrong. You just pull them out of your hat, then you admit it that you had no idea. My rights are trampled on here. The press is here tonight. I encourage you to go through this resolution and pull out the perjury in there. Pull it out, it's easy. I did it in 5 seconds. Please, do your due diligence. My rights are being trampled. You can all sense my frustration here. The hypocrisy of what goes on in this district is stunning. It's turned into a circus. Oh my God. Laugh all you want. These are my observations that I've been seeing. I've been doing this for a long time. I've been on a board for a long time. I've raised my hand like this the entire time. It's only become a problem now. The audience, so it's on the record. My hand is, elbow is on the dais. My hand is above my head, as Trustee Briscoe said in the last meeting. Yet he still fails to recognize me. Everyone here sees my hand. Everyone in the dais sees my hand. The only one who doesn't see my hand up is Trustee Briscoe. Trustee Souter sat right next to me tonight, and you could look at the Facebook video. He raised his hand just like this, and he was recognized, yet I wasn't. This is a problem, ladies and gentlemen. I'm being bullied. I'm being bullied. Teachers are being bullied. Parents are being bullied. So you can sense the frustration in my voice. So I request a full investigation of my censure from a outside the district third party who's impartial. I'll also call for a grand jury to investigate this board. Thank you.
And that would leave Trustee Clayton.
Thank you, President Briscoe. I'll take you back to page 65. And I could read through all these things again, but let's just go back to the one thing that my colleague down there on the end of the board keeps denying. That he sexually harassed me. But he did. On or about Tuesday, February 5th, 2019, Mr. Westwell sexually harassed a member of the body, Trustee Gina Clayton-Tarbin, by taunting and harassing her in closed session with unwelcome innuendo when he repeatedly puckered his lips with visual and audible kissing gestures. Every single person who's in the room in closed session has said that it occurred, yet we still have somebody who is pathologically fibbing and then demanding that we all do what he says and submit to what he wants and get the grand jury of Orange County involved in what? In the fact that you sexually harassed a female colleague and now you're denying it? You need to seek help. You need to seek help. We could all get along here very well if you would just be respectful. If you were in a paying job, if you were an employee of the Ocean View School District and you did that to me, you would be fired. The only thing that's saving you is the electorate. But I can tell you, in 2020, you will not be saved.
Nope.
That's right.
That's right.
You have signed yourself up to be gone.
Yep.
Thank you, President Briscoe, for bringing this censure forward. I really don't want to ever have to see another censure again of our colleague at the end of the dais. However, if he shall continue to behave in this way, there will be another. And I'll conclude with that and a good of the order, which is to wish our executive assistant, Cindy Lee, a happy birthday. Thank you.
And now it's my turn. Would everybody please join me on the count of 3? 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Cindy. Happy birthday to you. The best 15 seconds of the evening. That concludes my remarks. We're gonna go back into closed session because we have a whole lot more work to do. Sorry, Cindy, no, just kidding. There's no need to be in closed session again. There's no need to return to open session. That leaves us to the final item on the agenda. I need to hear a motion to adjourn. Singers, thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? It passes 5-0. Good evening and happy birthday.